What's going on, everybody? We are back live once again. It's another brand new episode of Liam Picks Fights, brought to you by the fine folks at PrizePicks. Guys, if you're looking to try a new way to get down on the UFC action this weekend, PrizePicks offers you prop projections. It's not just for the UFC, but that's what we're talking about on this show. As you know, we're talking about fights, and you can go for things like significant strikes. You can go for totals, a little bit more traditional, right? Fight times over and under, or you could go with things like takedowns, which I think is an interesting way to find different looks on PrizePicks as well. You could look at fantasy score. So if you're looking to get involved, go to prizepicks.com. You plug in my promo code Liam. They're going to deposit match you 100% up to $100. Now, folks, with that being said, we've got an amazing UFC card to break down. UFC 277, top to bottom, very exciting fights, a lot of well-matched competitive fights on this fight card, 2 5-round title fights, one interim of the interim variety, and then one that is a very big championship rematch, one of the biggest upsets in UFC history. They're going to do it again. We're going to find out who is the true champion at 135 pounds. It should be a heck of a clash, and I'm excited to break it down. We've got 2 of the normal 4 horsemen returning to us and a brand new friend of the show. So with that being said, guys, I will not delay. Let's bring them on. You know him. You love him. He's our Uncle Lou. How you doing, my friend? He's slamming something to get the show started. That's when you know we are off to the races. Lou, how are you, my brother? Are you alive and well over there after that fireball shot to get us going? You're muted, my friend.
It's nice to drink a beer not out of a shoe for the first time today. Look, man, last week, not so great. I kind of had a bad feeling. I do bad on these London cards, but I feel good about my reads this week. I felt good about my reads since Monday. I feel locked in. Contender Series got us on a nice winning start to the week. Some bullshit soccer got me going. I feel good about this read. Let's get it done, my man.
Let's go. Gotta say, terrible week for me last week. I think if there's a Curtis Blaydes main event, I might just have to lay off it. Only had 2 reverse sweeps in my life, both of the last 2 Curtis Blaydes main events. So, guys, I think I might have to lay off next time Curtis is in that featured bout, in that main spot. But this week, we're back to somebody in the main spot that I cashed on a lot of times in Amanda Nunes. In that prop role, especially, I caught a nice sub number in the first round for her against Megan Anderson back in the day. So shout out, but we've got plenty of great guests to introduce. Our man Patrick joining the stream for the first time. He's got his own YouTube channel, and he's been a fan of these fights for a long time, so he knows what he's looking at. Patrick, my friend, welcome to the show. How are you tonight?
Hey, what's happening, man? Yeah, we followed each other and been watching your stuff for a long time, man. And Lou's a good friend of mine from the MMA Engine, and Gordo gambles too, a very sharp guy. I'm glad to be on here with you guys. I'm looking to bounce back this week too. I mean, the past 2 doctor stoppages have cost me. I had both of those fighters that got hurt parlayed up, so I'm going back to the basics this week, going back to money lines, just hammering 3 favorites, 3 underdogs. I'm excited for it.
I love it, man. Keeping it simple, refining that strategy. That's what we always got to do every week. Win, lose, or draw. Got to refine the process and do a little bit better. 1 fewer bad bet every week is critical to our long-term success. And nobody knows that better than our man Gambles Gordo. Back on the street once again, in the driver's seat. How you feeling, my brother? What's going on?
Yeah, I didn't sleep through this one. I'm not at the airport for this one. So hopefully those last 2 weeks really woke me up and made me realize I cannot let the horseman down again. Patrick, pleasure to meet you. Liam, thank you again for having me on. We've been killing Dana White Contender Series for week 1, and let's do it again. Lou, you don't get a hello because you got enough fireball to say hello to all of us. But no, let's break down some fights. UFC 277 should be a lot of fun. I got my fair share of points on this one. Looking to bounce back just like you guys and really excited to break it down.
Absolutely. And Contender Series ended up being a wash for me, and I couldn't even track my bets because Bet365 was giving me the runaround. Had to do 9 authentications and 6 logins. Already had to drive to Jersey to get down anyway, but Bazooka was able to come through on the money line, so it ended up just being a wash for me. I had Bazooka ITD. But if you guys did watch the show we did with Narco, my parlay did come across the board. So if anybody was tailing there, we got 4 fights and 4 picks right there. The cost of one I gave you with a grain of salt. I said I hadn't done the research, but admittedly, we've done the research for UFC 277. So it's time to get rocking and rolling, guys. And, the top of the fight card is great. We love to look at those fights, but all the way top to bottom. I think we're going to have some fun action, a bunch of fights that could end inside the distance. And starting with this one, this is a prime candidate, right? Why? Orion Kosi, he's probably going to have a wrestling and grappling advantage. He wrestled at a pretty decent level. Seems like he went to University of Oregon for a year and was like, I'm going to do this fighting stuff instead. He's got a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu brown belt, so should be the much more well-schooled, comfortable fighter, you'd have to think, in the clinch, on the ground. However, I think that at distance, he might be a little bit of a liability against somebody like Blood Diamond. I don't think he's horrible at striking. I just think that, like most MMA fighters, his offense is superior to his defense. So I think that Orion Kosi, if he's smart, is going to try and close the distance early, often in this fight. He's going to try and get on top of this guy. And I think maybe he can make something happen. I also have a little bit of concerns about his cardio. It's held up a little bit better in past fights, but I thought that in the Philip Rowe fight, showed a little bit of cause for concern. Granted, he took some knees to the body, some shots in that fight as well. Wasn't able to get to his takedowns in his top position. Maybe he's able to get there here, so we don't see those same concerns manifest. But not passionate about laying the money line here. Think that both guys have a path to finish, but if anything, I would probably look at a Kosei submission prop of some kind, just because I think he's going to have a pretty big advantage on the ground if he's able to get it there. Lou, how do you feel about this one?
Yeah, so just because we brought up the Contender Series, like, this has to be said, people watch these fights Tuesday, they're like, oh man, this guy's not ready for the UFC. This guy's not ready for the UFC. And then here we go. We got Blood Diamond opening up a pay-per-view. So, like, what do we know? Like, it's weird. But I'll make this one simple. Like, Kosei, very clear path to victory. Like, the clearest path to victory you can ask for in terms of just taking him down. I'm not as confident in you on the sub. I do like in the distance, though. I think ground and pound's there. I think Blood Diamond seems to have zero get-up game. So if he gives up his back, the sub's there. Or he could just not figure out how to get off his back and get pounded out. So Kosei in the distance is plus 100. That's the way I'm playing this. I will have a bet on this. It seems simple enough. I'm actually kind of chalk heavy in terms of like the picks I like this week. So I'm trying to find value. But I think there's no path for Blood Diamond to win a decision here, I don't think. I think Kosei could. Maybe he can get 15 minutes of control time and win a decision, but I think he gets him out of there. I don't think Blood Diamond knows how to get up from takedown. So give me Kosei to get it done at some point in 15 minutes. Whether it takes one takedown or three, he's going to get it done.
Yeah, Jeremiah Wells hit the spinning run into the cage takedown to start the last one. That was a shocking start to the fight.
Yeah, they teach that at Gracie's gym now. They teach the spinning, fake falling down, and then getting the trip takedown.
That's why they're ahead of the game over there at Martinez BJJ.
Pro Philly move, man.
I love it. Patrick, what do you think?
Yeah, as long as Orion Kosi doesn't run straight into the fence, he's going to do better than Jeremiah Wells, at least to start. I like Koski in this one. There's no bet on this fight for me. I like Koski. He really did impress me in his last fight in a loss. His toughness was, something that I think was very underrated. He ate like 6 knees right up the middle to the chin from Philip Rowe, ate a bunch of punches before finally getting sniped out with that huge, 80-inch reach right cross. But I think Koski's got, a much more well-rounded MMA game here, and I value that over, what I've seen from Blood Diamond so far. My one nitpicking thing about Koski is sometimes he does get the worst end of the striking exchanges and keep on striking. He doesn't try to change levels or panic wrestle like you should. But I think we can count on him to get takedowns here, but no bet on me for this one.
Yeah, seems reasonable, man. It's not the kind of guy I want to necessarily trust with my money, but I do expect him to get it done. Exactly. Gordo, what do you think?
Yeah, this is one where I think I have way too much interest than I really should. I'm actually really looking forward to this one just because of this was originally going to be my lock of the night play. When I looked at my first original research, it was going to be this under. This under was something I was going to be really, really big on. I thought that either way, it'd probably be an early ground finish for a guy in Orion Kosei, or it's going to be a guy in Mike Matheta or Blood Diamond who wants to go out there and his path to victory is that knockout. And it seemed a very binary fight, one that I could definitely get behind. Haven't really locked it in yet because I'm looking for the alt total, looking for an under 2.5 here. The fight doesn't go early, was a lot better than it is now. It is getting juiced. With that being said, I locked up a play a long time ago. This fight's actually rebooked. The first time it was booked out, I did bet Orion Kosei, and I'm doing it again right here. I have 3 units, minus 150. I really like him here. Just to me, it's looking at, should I add the under? Should I take the inside the distance? I do think that that's the major win condition for both fighters, and I do really like the unders in this spot. With that being said, with already having 3 units on the line, I don't know how much deeper I want to get into this fight because I do think it is somewhat a lower level event. So it's one that I'm going to really have to be careful about. That being said, I do love the unders. I love Orion Kosei, and I love targeting this fight from a DraftKings perspective.
Yeah, man, that all makes sense to me. The one thing that had really stuck out to me in terms of what I had some interest in was Cozy by sub in round one. Just because I think that that's a viable path. You see the guy in his amateur career had a bunch of wins by armbar, and then he lists his favorite submission as a Kimura. He's gotten one of those in professional MMA already. What's to stop him from advancing to whatever position he wants and then going for whatever submission he wants, which in this case I would expect is probably a power Kimura in the first round.
Plus 850, Liam.
Yep. We just talked about that on Air Bets.
You might catch me on that.
Round one subs plus 850. It's not bad.
Yep, I kind of like that one. So if I was to get to a play, I think that is where I would get to. But we've got a unanimous panel. We all think that Cozy is probably going to end up winning the fight. Blood Diamond was somebody that I faded pretty bigly with Jeremiah Wells, and that was a lucrative endeavor overall. So I might look to do that again, but I haven't decided if I want to pull the trigger yet. As of now, it's no movement from me. But with that being said, we got another fight coming up that has seen a lot of line movement. I'm going to check at what the opener was, minus 200, according to best fight odds, and that's coming from Bet Online. So I think that that's pretty shocking amount of line movement here. We've got Nikolai Nego Mariano. The line just flipped. I would say, what am I looking at now? Best available price on Nego Mariano is now minus 107, it looks like. Wow. And you can get plus 100 as the comeback on Poteria. And I think that a lot of that is driven by the fact that people are looking, and they're number one, there's the Dana White Contender Series fade angle that people like to take, which I don't think that there's necessarily anything wrong with that at plus money, especially as like a long-term data-driven trend. However, it's also a case-by-case basis for me. I'm not sure that this is necessarily a guy that I want to continue to back, especially at this stage. It's a no-go for me on the Nego Mariano side, 100%. You missed the party, right? The plus money's already been evaporated. So maybe he wins the fight, but from a market standpoint, if you're betting into these numbers after they've been adjusted this much long-term, it's going to be harder to win long-term. Not to say you can't, but just this is a market that's been pretty heavily addressed. Now, with that being said, if you are interested in the favorite, patience has been a virtue here, because now you might get him as a plus 120. You might get him at a plus 130. Who knows? Because a lot of people tend to chase steam. They start looking for parlay pieces, things like that, and they go based on who's the favorite. They never checked on bestfightodds.com who the favorite was before, right? So I think that that's one thing that we got to consider as well, is now that the line is flipped, probably going to see some more money continue to pile in, chase that steam on the Nego Mariano side. Maybe you get a significant plus money number here. And the problem for Nego Mariano, if you want to poke holes in his resume, is that maybe he's won a bunch of fights that he arguably could have lost, right? I think the Nzechukwu one was one of those ones where after you get the greasy win like I did, you go, thank you, I appreciate it. Like this is one for me. All the other ones, the split decisions I've had to rip up. This is one that gives it back a little bit of that variance in our direction. But even the Kamer fight, Kamer's a pretty low-level UFC talent at this stage, definitely in a development process, let's say. Same thing with Nego Mariano. Same thing with Poteria, right? He's only had a couple of fights against guys with winning records, so you don't want to get out over your skis here. You don't want to lay the minus 200 on him, certainly. But now you're getting kind of a coin flip fight where one guy looks like he might have a little bit cleaner striking towards the chin, where he might hit a little bit harder. Does he train at the same level? I'm not sure about that. Nego Mariano at Extreme Couture is a pretty good gym. So I would say I'm not excited to fade Nego Mariano either. He does have a block for a head. It's not easy to put away. For me, though, he's just uninspiring. And so now being asked to lay a chalk price, it's just a complete no-go for me. It's a dog or pass situation at this point. Lou, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, you broke that perfectly. Like, Victoria is like can crusher. I don't need to break down his tape. The dude's a complete can crusher with very suspect wins, like 3 in one night. They're like, oh, it's a tournament, but like it wasn't. And then it's his record is just. Wiz is going to be interviewing him in a week. I have a feeling that this is the next guy that Wiz is going to interview. Like it's Askarov version 2. And Nego Mariano, like he lost Saparov. Like all right, like that was his debut. It was a terrible look. The Kimura fight was. Kimura is just a disappointment. He beats Ike, like poor Ike Villanueva. That you can't take anything away from that. And then The last fight I had yam bags, which paid off big time. And I had the draw, which I was like, I think Pepe Sylvia might have had the draw for this too. You were like, oh my God, I'm going to hit you got to back up bags with the draw. The draw bags is must be. So
there haven't been a draw in a while. So, I mean, it's almost due. Who's getting a draw this week?
So the thing is I can't take a side here, but this is the yam bag special. Now, before we move on, I want to say that Weezy and I actually try to apply science to this because we're old, weird dudes that love this shit. We look for southpaw versus orthodox a lot. Like when the stances are open, you do get more ball shots. There's 4 southpaw versus orthodox fights on this card. There's this one, Morales and Fugit, whatever. Dober, Alves, and Ankalaev and Smith. And only Ankalaev Smith has a lower ITD line here. So could I see a ball shot? You have a crazy dude from the Ukraine who really his tape seems very incomplete against Negramanu, who is not great, but actually does have some grappling upside. I'm not saying he's a world-class grappler, but he does have some grappling upside here. Vettori doesn't seem like he knows really what he's doing on the ground. So cage grabs are in effect, ball shots are in effect. It's Negramanu. He get his eye poked in the first 10 seconds. So give me the point deduction. Give me 20-1 odds on the yam bag special, and let's just have fun with that one.
I love it. I love where your head's at. It's the right division for it. All those are very, very live. Patrick, what do you think?
Yeah, this is one where I agree with you. It's dog or pass, and I'm not inspired by Nick Mariano any more than anybody else, but at plus money, I did take him, so I got the plus money side. Probably wouldn't recommend doing that at, chalk odds, but I like the durability, and it's what happens when Pretoria faces that, version of a UFC fighter that has some durability. He's been crushing cans. We've seen it even on the Dana White Contender Series, a round 1 finish. What happens when he's forced to go into round 2? Does the power translate? Can he deal with the takedown offense? I wasn't really excited. I never thought I would bet Nego Mariano, but I think it's a clear spot where I get some plus money on a classic veteran versus, maybe somebody who's not ready for this level.
Absolutely. And that's certainly viable. I think plus money on either side in this fight is a better look than laying chalk on either one of these fighters. Who among them can inspire confidence? So really you're betting into potential. And in your case, you're betting into somebody that has that proven UFC track record, as opposed to somebody that, could definitely be called into question in terms of their real legitimate wins, who they've been able to produce over. So I think that makes a lot of sense. Gordo, what do you think, my man?
I agree. Another one where we're going to be on the same side here. I do think that Nego Mariano, especially at that plus money number, was the side to do, especially with that fraudulent record of Pretoria there. He's got a guy who in front of him who has just this insane durability, a brick for a head. And if you have all that can crushing in you, a guy who might have an adrenaline dump, it's really hard for me to go and back him. I think if you look at a better mixed martial artist as well, I do think that Nego Mariano may have the grappling, control sign, wrestling upside here, despite not maybe having the best of it in the division. He definitely has the upside. With that being said, Pretoria is a guy who's going to have the speed and power, but speed and power means nothing when you got a guy with a brick for a head, really, especially if that's only for 1 round. So I look for Nego Mariano to drown it out over the stretch, look for him to win the later rounds, look for him to push against the cage, drown him out, drag him into deep waters, and really test to see how fraudulent this guy's record is.
Awesome. We'll find out, man. And I've been cashing a lot of these Nego Mariano plus money tickets myself, so haven't felt inspired to get in this week and was a little bit late to the party as is. The line was already starting to flip. I was seeing that movement. So I think that you guys did your job. Market has agreed with you. Numbers flipped. But for me, I missed the boat, so I'm going to have to let it swim away without me, and I'm going to wish you guys the very best of luck. That will be enough encouragement for me to not get on the Pretoria side here, unless we see a ridiculous plus number, because sometimes we do see on a bigger fight card like this, lines get steamed pretty heavily close to fight time. So that being said, guys, we can move along. We've got another fight coming up. This one is going to be at women's bantamweight, and this is a fight that I'm a little bit more intrigued in from a betting perspective. It's a very closely lined fight, so I think that opens the door, just like in the last fight. But this fight has kind of been hovering around closer odds, right? Nobody opened to minus 200 in this matchup. I think the bookmakers were hip to the fact this was going to be a lot closer. But the market hasn't really known what to do with this line, right? We've kind of seen both ladies available at plus money, and that's something the books try to avoid, right? Giving significant plus money. I'm talking about plus 120 on either side, because now they're writing tickets at a loss. That their average odds aren't going to work out necessarily unless they take enough volume between now and fight time, where they might write a bunch of numbers at really bad odds for themselves over and over by switching the line like that. So I think that the reason that they tried to do that is to encourage action on both sides, even out their books a little bit. But I did think that plus 120 on Ji and Kim was very interesting. I went to go get involved and the line was gone. It was plus 110. And I was like, man, I have a feeling that this line might move. So looking right now, plus 110 is the best available on best fight odds. I'm just doing a quick refresh to make sure that hasn't changed on the show. Yep, that's still true. So you can get plus 110 on a couple of U.S. domestics. Most of the place it's plus 104, plus 102, these kind of numbers. And I think that it could end up being a competitive fight. I wouldn't be stunned if either of these ladies wins, but I have to favor Ji and Kim for a couple of reasons. Number one, I think she's been fighting a higher level of opposition. So she is coming up to 135, but it's not her first time at the weight class. So I don't expect that she's going to be completely outsized here or outstrengthed. I think that she did a decent job in most of the fight tape that I've seen, including against somebody like Molly McCann, who's pretty physical at 125, of matching her physicality in the clinch. She had a couple opportunities with a body lock where she very nearly got on top of Molly when Molly went for a few takedowns. So she went for counter wrestling and nearly got it, wasn't able to. But I do think that might be live against somebody like Jocelyn Edwards. I'm not sure how competent her ground game is. I have some reason for skepticism. And I think that as far as on the feet, she doesn't throw as many strikes to the head. When you see what she's doing, she's throwing a lot of leg kicks. She's throwing a lot of side kicks to the body and things like that, a lot of distance tools to keep somebody away. So if she's able to keep her away for the whole fight, that's why I said I wouldn't really be surprised if either lady wins. She can potentially just keep her at the end of range, be a little bit bigger. But I just have to imagine that her durability was a little bit suspect against Ramona Pascal. She's taking knees to the body and looked like she was freezing up and like almost finished in that spot. I could see Ji Kim pushing her into the fence and landing those kind of shots. Now she's got to cut some weight as well. So does her durability hold up as well at 135 taking those shots? I don't know. I think that that's at least an open question. She's normally a 135er, but she was having some suspect durability at 45 where theoretically she'd have better durability, you'd think. So I think that for all those reasons, I'm not necessarily sold on Jocelyn Edwards, as well as the fact that we've seen these really rapid turnarounds haven't paid off for people a lot. We saw it with Chris Curtis last weekend. Fool I am. I thought that he was going to show up looking good, looked shell of himself, I thought. And maybe that's a factor of Jack Hermanson is the greatest game planner of all time. I think it was also a little bit of fought too many times in too close a proximity and didn't really show up looking his physical best. And I think that we could see the same thing from Jocelyn Edwards here. Now she's got to make a weight cut. Now she's got to turn around on 41 days, I think. And I think that for all those reasons, I'm a little skeptical of her side in this fight. So for me, it's a Ji and Kim or pass situation. And Patrick, looks like you got something to say, my man. We'll kick it to you first. What do you think?
Yeah, I do have a bet on Edwards here. I got her, at a pretty good price on the money line. I think it was like around minus 135 or so. I like the youth here. I like her ability to improve in this fight. And I think both women are going to have a better time than they have been recently because they're not fighting somebody who's going to take them down. Both women really, that's their nightmare and the bane of their existence, right? Ji and Kim, really no get-up ability, no takedown defense. And I think that that's going to open up the kicks a lot more, just like you mentioned, to maintain distance, on the side of Edwards here. And it's really a youth thing and more of the optics for her striking, too. A little bit more zip, a little bit more power and respect earned off of her kicks and punches here than Ji and Kim, who kind of has that shadow boxer syndrome at times. And, she's coming off of that bad beat from Cachoeira, a fight I thought she should have won probably, but, she like doubled or tripled her up on strikes. But again, the optics for the judges, in this fight, that might play out similarly where they, kind of if they each got 50 significant strikes, they might rate those better for somebody who, perceived to do more damage. And I think Edwards is that girl that does that this time.
It's very possible, my man. I think that's for me, like the Edwards path is to keep her at distance, keep her at range with the kicks, do a little bit more damage from the outside. But for me, it was just those head strikes that was concerning because I think she landed like 20-something head strikes against Ramona Pascal. And I'm pretty sure Ji and Kim landed 150 head strikes against Priscilla Cachoeira. So, yeah, I thought it was a baffling decision against Priscilla, and I had Priscilla at plus money there too. So hey, that's that's kind of the name of the game sometimes.
One last thing, I gotta shout out my guy Justin. He says, "Wow, Houston Alexander in the building, but why is he going by Patrick now?"
Oh my gosh,
my guy Houston Alexander.
Oh, that's so
classic
funny.
UFC figure. He got retired from the UFC by Kimbo Slice. Never forget.
Absolutely, a legend, a legend. Gordo, what do you think, my man? Do you got anything on this fight?
I don't know. I didn't really want to have that Kim robbery brought up at this wee hour of the morning, but that's fresh in my mind. That's okay. No, this is one really, it's kind of a pass fight for me. I do think that it's really unfortunate that Wiz Betts isn't here to talk about all the missing punches that will be whizzing through the air with Jian King this weekend, because, man, she just throws so much volume, and how much of it really hits. This is one where I do think it's dog or pass. Unfortunately, I am on the Kim side when it comes to an official pick. With that being said, is it going to be convincing? Is it going to be out here with the same finish? That I don't think I'm going to have the same finish opportunity that Liam may suggest here. I think it's going to be a greasy decision. I talked about this on Eric Betts' fight stream earlier. It's probably a split decision fight, and it's one that I don't really want to go in there with too much confidence. You have the volume, questionable volume with all them whizzing past, but you also have the range and the length on the Edwards side. So it's a really weird fight, two different styles. I can see it going either way. I have talked about this a lot with my boy Beefy in the chat there, and it's one where maybe Kim 3.5 points because it's going to be a really close fight. I don't mind that one there. Even some Kim more significant strikes, that is also a decent one as well, because she does throw so much volume, although not a lot of it really connects throughout the time. So that being said, complete pass for me. I'll let you guys duke it out, and I'll just take a backseat for this one.
Lou, finish us. Tell us what you got.
So I just
end the split. We've got one person on a pass. We got two people on either side. You're the deciding vote. What you got?
I'm on a pass, but I lean Edwards. But before I get there, in my notes, I need to give a shout out to Magic and Gambus, because they've been calling Negro the Transylvania Pain Train, and like it's an awesome name, and I just like it's their name. Like full credit to them, but like they're trying to make it stick, and I'm here for it. Like I think that's a great name for him. I'm on the Edwards side for two reasons. I'm not going to bet this fight. Like there will be no bet. I think this is minute winner versus moment winner. Like I think Kim did get robbed last fight, but not massively. I mean, like she is so defensively irresponsible that like she kind of let it happen. The thing with Edwards is she might pitter patter her for 15 minutes, stay out of range, just tap, 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 tap. Whereas the optics of Kim, like just going from like 10 feet out, trying to land a big shot, looks crappy when Edwards is just maybe not doing any damage, but kind of landing a lot of strikes. Like, Gordo mentioned the split decision. As you guys know, my other account is named Tim Troiano, where I only bet split decisions, like, and my hat's the other way around, like my guy Tim. I think this is a perfect kind of split decision fight. I think this is could Kim do damage for 30 seconds of a round? And could that win a round over Edwards kind of just tapping her for 4 minutes? Like it could. It depends on the judging. So this is a total pass for me. I lean Edwards on just like winning minutes with like minuscule shots over Kim looking like she's just going all or nothing here. So, but no bet for me. I mean, like if you like a side, take the split decision. That's if you have to bet it.
I do think that more often than not, this fight sees the scorecards, but it is very, very heavily juiced to go to the scorecards. And that always gives me the heebie-jeebies. It is a women's MMA fight, so I'll give it a break. But like Ally Quinta, Bobby Green's the same way, and it ends in 5 seconds.
I got a prop for you too. I don't know if I'm going to get there, but if I am going to play this fight, and I know Edwards has never been KO'd, but with the way Kim throws, she does have some power, and it's 10-1 on the KO prop. I mean, she's not getting a submission. Like, so 10-1 on the KO prop. I know Edwards never been KO'd. I know she's moving up in weight. Like, I understand there's a lot of pieces here that are narratives, but like that seems like, I mean, she does have the power to do it if she could put her game together. So
do you remember her one knockout in the UFC against Nadia Kassem after she went for that fake glove tap? The cheap sidekick sucker punch and got dropped dirty, immediately.
And I think Edwards is defensively responsible enough, probably not to get caught. But I do think Kim has unique power, and like we'll see what it looks like when she moves up. But as from a prop perspective, because to me, taking the side is not going to be fun here. But as a prop, 10-1 on the Kim KO, kind of worth at least a little more investigating. Like, take a look.
Yeah, I don't hate it. And I will just say she did have some success grappling regionally, and we haven't seen her really try to grapple very much in the UFC. She kind of got stuffed at the hips a few times when she did attempt those takedowns. But Jocelyn Edwards, I do think, is a little bit questionable in the takedown defense. She did lose to Sarah Alpar regionally, a couple other people. So I do think it's a question mark still in her game. And Kim doesn't attempt them very often, but if she decided to for this fight, I think it could be a potential game changer. But, it's yet to be seen. Don't want to bank on things you haven't seen. So I think the KO is definitely more likely just because we know that she's going to go out there and attempt a high volume of strikes. But I do think she might be at a kicking disadvantage here. So she's going to have to close down the range, and it should be a heck of a battle. I'm actually kind of excited to watch that fight play out. And next up, we got a fight where straight up, I got to do more homework. I don't know very much about Adam Fugit, but I did have notes on Morales from before he came to the Contender Series. So I was pretty well versed on his game. And I thought that he was a live underdog, but I don't think I actually got to the window with him when he was on the Contender Series. And he ended up impressing me a little bit in that spot. But I'm not completely sold on him as a minus 600 favorite in the UFC against almost anybody. I do think he's a little bit green, a little bit untested at this level. So curious to hear what you guys have to say. But my man Gordo, Patrick, we'll kick it to you first, brother. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think Adam Fugit at this line would have some value over, any other prospect. But Michael Morales has these huge measurables, and he kind of looks like a mix between like an Anderson Silva, like a John Jones in this weight class. Those huge limbs, huge reach at this weight class, and he can think his way out of a bad situation at such a young age. It's a really spectacular thing, I think, especially against Trevin Giles, who was able to take him down, kind of like attempt a submission on him. He was able to reverse positions on the ground. He got hit on the chin by Trevin Giles. He was able to work his way out of that. He's got very clean, creative striking. And Fugit's got very good, like, fundamental skills in all areas of MMA. It's just not spectacular. He has got a Muay Thai background. He actually has one of the, like, cleanest spinning elbows in Muay Thai, like a clean knockout, almost like Molly McCann over Luana Carolina, that type of knockout in Muay Thai a few years ago. But then on the flip side, he also looks, he got Superman punched into the next universe at a certain point in LFA as well. So he's been cracked. He's shown some good ability on the ground and on the feet. But I think Michael Morales, just with all of his raw talent, athleticism, I think this kid's the real deal. So not much I can do betting-wise at minus 650, but I am taking Morales very confidently.
Nice. And that is what we call cost prohibitive, right? When they put him at that huge minus 600 designation, it's really to try and keep you off it or to force you into that parlay situation.
Gordo, even inside the distance is juice too. I want to say that's like minus 200 or more. So that's
how you can book Morales by decision right now, right?
Yeah.
That's how the bookmakers get you, man. They make you lay the huge juice to make you think it's confident and a lock because it's minus 200. But we got to remember they're trying to price you out of things as well. Gordo, what do you think?
Yeah, it's a tough one because I do really favor the Morales side here, but it's not one where I can really get to the window and play it all. With that being said, again, DraftKings player at heart. This is one where I'm going to be all over the Morales side here. I do think he has a good chance to roll here. I think although he's still young, he has just seemed to be, he needs to be really, let's say, I don't want to say mature, but yeah, he's mature. He's smart. He knows what he has to do. He's got good striking, good technical ability, and he's also have just a good way of fighting out of things. And I do think he has Fugit covered almost everywhere here. It's of course, it's an MMA fight with a young prospect, so anything can happen. With that being said, am I laying minus 600? No. Is he parlayable? Yes, but what valuable are you getting out of it, really? So it's tough one for me to say. I am playing him a lot on DraftKings, though. Unfortunately, don't see enough value on the dog side here to go out and play him. So let me just play Morales on DraftKings and leave it at that.
Nice. Makes sense to me, man. I think that, he's definitely a guy that could cover his price. He has somebody that's been finished before, that's kind of making a return here, was off for 2 years, came back, got a big win. But I do think that was an impressive win, man. Solomon Renfro is a local guy, trains with really good UFC level pros. And there was a lot of talk about this guy coming to the UFC. It was a huge upset when Fugit beat him. So I do think there's some questions about, the improvements he's made while he's away. Maybe he is going to be a credible UFC fighter, but sometimes we see even guys that go on to have credible runs in the UFC, that first fight can be a letdown spot, especially if they take it on short notice. And I think that could be a big factor here, especially in the betting line. Lou, what do you think?
Do you know it was more impressive than Fugit beating Renfro in 42 seconds? The GOAT, Johnny by God Parsons, just playing with his food and beating him by split decision, as was the plan, because he knew that I bet Johnny Parsons by split decision last season.
I bet Johnny Parsons money line there for a big amount. I support my local guys, but that line was insane.
I think I heard it from you, and it might have been you and Narco got me on that. And also make sure you bring it up to Wheezy every single time you talk to him, because he had money on Renfro, and he hates that I just bring up Parsons like relentlessly to him. It's like the one thing I'm like, well, he's the GOAT. Anyway, Fugit's not bad. Like, I looked at his tape, like Patrick broke it down really well. I thought he can mix it up really well, but the concern, these layoffs, like 40 seconds of cage time in almost 3 years is you just don't know. Like my inclination was playing over 1.5 here and saying maybe Morales, it's a buy low spot because of his last fight getting a first round knockout, but there's just so much unknown. And this is a total setup fight for Morales. It's a display fight. You can't parlay him at -600. In the distance, -200 is like fucking outrageous. Like, you can't. Is this heavyweight? Like, this is crazy. It's a crazy number. So it's a total pass for me. Yeah, Morales should win, and I think there's going to be a time to fade him. But one thing I want to bring up about him is we haven't seen his wrestling yet. But the guy comes from a judo background. Like, his parents were judo practitioners. Like, this dude, I don't know. I can't confirm that he was on the Colombian wrestling team. Maybe one of you guys knows. Like, but I feel like
I think he was, but I'm not sure what that means.
Well, I mean, it's probably better than another guy we're going to talk about being on his national team in Egypt. But
hey, it all depends, man. It all depends. Go on.
But he grew up, but even like he grew up in a judo background that got him into MMA. It means this dude's got some serious wrestling chops that maybe we haven't seen on this level yet. And I'm curious to see his development, if he will go to it. I think there's going to be a time to bet him by submission. I don't think this is the time, but he's got it in his arsenal. Like, he's got good entries, like in some of his regional stuff. And clearly he's got good trips, like from what I've seen. So it's weird that I delved into this one as much as I did, but like, I was
it's
just
a fun
curious.
fight. It's a fun fight.
I'm curious because he looks like he's like a real deal guy. Not Bo Nickel real deal, but he looks pretty good. And
I'm just glad to see him get like another spot that's not like a really big test yet. Sometimes they rush these young prospects,
absolutely,
especially with a guy like Morales he's 23 years old. He looks to have all of the measurables in this division. Looks to have like all of kind of like the fight IQ so far. So I'm glad to see him get one more spot where he can really build momentum going into this.
Just can't take him at -600 here,
No.
like at 21 years old. Like, I just can't do it. So it's a pass for me. I mean, if you feel like playing him in the distance at -200, God bless you. But like, I can't get there with that number unless it's like against Harry Hunsucker, Lord Hunsucker.
Lord.
Well, yeah, if you just translate those betting odds, I mean, it's an implied win probability of 85.71%. So you do have to ask yourself, like, where you're getting your edge at a certain point. Is it that he beats him 100% of the time or, 95%? I think you got to bake in like 5% is like a meteor hits the thing or somebody breaks an ankle.
Torn ACL.
Unfortunately, yeah, it's like, it's sad, but it's something that we deal with in this. So I do think that's, a black swan event, what we call it. And it's something we got to take into account. But overall, I think that for me, I'm going to end up passing on this fight in all likelihood, but I'm going to do my due diligence on the Fugit side because some people I respect think that he might be a viable underdog. So I'm going to at least do my due diligence and see what I come up with. But for now, don't want to pass too much judgment because I just haven't seen the gentleman fight except for that win that he had over Solomon because I was watching that, trying to support the local guy. But with that being said, we can move along to another fight, Drakkar Klose. a very common position here as a UFC betting favorite. And he's going to be taking on Rafa Garcia, pretty familiar now as being a UFC underdog. And I think that it's an interesting fight on paper. I don't know that we've seen somebody with this kind of stylistic matchup take on Drakkar Klose in some time. Somebody who's just going to try and probably relentlessly wrestle and grapple him. That's at least what I'm expecting from Rafa Garcia based on his recent performances. Seems to me like he's kind of, gotten that reality check in the UFC that, maybe my striking's not on the level, so let's go to where I'm good. And it seems like I'm pretty good at this wrestling and grappling stuff relative to my competition. And that's where my pace holds up a little better. I think that when he's taking damage on the feet, he starts to slow down. But when he's in the wrestling and grappling positions, he seems to have better cardio to go down the stretch. So, Lou, what do you think about this fight? I'm curious, my man.
Yeah, this is one of the few underdogs that I'm leaning toward. I don't have a bet on it yet, but look, one of the simple things is when you bet a guy, you want to bet a guy that fights for your money. And I feel like Garcia fights for my money. Now, the Hack Perez loss I can forgive. I just think Hack Perez, the bet was bad stylistic matchup for him. The Grutzmacher loss was not a great look, but he comes back. I rate Natan Levy probably higher than most. I think Levy's a pretty skilled guy that's still growing, and that was an awesome fight. Levy's cardio was good. Like, that was just a dog fight, man. I was impressed with it. And Jesse Ronson, look, man, Jesse Ronson's like a failed drug test away from maybe being somebody we consider like as a decent guy. I was impressed with the 2 wins. I was impressed. The Ronson win, I was especially the approach. He was proactive. He typically, he sits back and he's just willing to get into a firefight on the feet. He was just all about, he was going forward. He was the aggressor against Ronson. I liked it. The thing about Klose is I don't think he likes being pressured. We can't read too much into this, Brandon Jenkins win, can we? He knocked out a can. And he killed him. It was a 10-7, and then he knocked him out. Should Drakkar Klose be a 2-1 favorite over anybody in this mid-range? I don't think so. So it's dog or pass for me, and I think I'm gonna get to the window on Garcia. He fights for my money, and if this thing gets to the 3rd round, Garcia, he's shown some cardio weaknesses in the past, but he still fights through it. He doesn't wilt under cardio. He slows down, yes, but he comes at you, he comes forward. He's not going to get knocked out here. So he's live in the 3rd round no matter what. Close is not getting him out of here. So I'm going to take a shot on Garcia. By the way, Garcia plus 180, close at decision is even money. In a fight that I think goes a distance, probably 9 out of 10 times, give me the dog money with Garcia to make it really weird and ugly against a guy who was kind of shown he's a little frail and doesn't like getting into these dog fights.
Who's dealing with an injury and who's a little bit older. I think you're making a lot of great points.
Good hammer, terrible nail is close for me.
That's very fair. Patrick, what do you think, my man? You line up?
Yeah, I don't have any bet on this fight. I do like the overs here. I think it's pretty reliable. And I think both guys are coming from a similar spot going into this, right? You got, the Jesse Ronson, the Brandon Jenkins. Both guys were Rafa Garcia, Drakkar Klose, not very potent finishers in the UFC, but they're able to at least, against those level of opponents, they're able to dispose of them. And I like to see that, they don't just drag that out to a decision. I like both guys. My hunch is going towards Drakkar Klose. I just like his movement and his ability to win the fight, but I think it's close. There's no bet for me, but if I were, it was going to be on Rafa Garcia. I see this playing out close, just like Lou bet you, and we want that plus money tag. This isn't a game of, who I'm a fan of, who I've got a hunch on. This is a numbers game in betting, right? When we're gambling, I think this is going to play out much closer than that line indicates, and I think you're getting a steal of a price on Rafa Garcia.
I like where your head's at, man. Gordo, what do you think?
Yeah, I think this fight is close. No pun intended, and it's one where I think that it's hard for me to get to that juicy chalk number, but I can't say with too much conviction. I do think that Klose wins this fight, but if you're holding a ticket, how much are you sweating the forward pressure, the constant grappling, the style that Garcia brings? It's a really weird one in my opinion. Klose definitely has more decision win equity here as well, and then if you are betting him, you have to worry about the Texas judges as well. So a guy like Klose who has not as much finishing equity and is a lower DraftKings target for me really just doesn't appeal to me that much. pass fight for me. Don't mind the shot on the dog. However, the official pick is going to be Drakkar Klose in a very close fight.
Can I ask you guys a question? Like, the reason why I'm on Klose as like a pick here, but not a bet, is I can see Klose getting the better of the dirty boxing exchanges. I could see him stuffing takedowns at a high percentage here and just maybe outpointing him on strikes over at least 2 out of 3 rounds. I can't see Rafa Garcia, like I can't picture him winning other than like a very close decision. How do you guys see Rafa Garcia winning this fight?
Grappling.
Okay. You think he's going to be successful with that?
I think you saw it against Ronson. Like he's growing into it. He seems more willing to do it. Like I think if you watch his fight against Haqparast, he was stubborn to just stay on the feet. Like in a fight that maybe like he shouldn't have stayed on the feet against Haqparast 50 minutes. He was stubborn about it. Mm-hmm. Against Ronson, he decided like he's starting to mix it up. Like he's still pretty young. Like I mean, allegedly. He's 27 years old, allegedly. I don't believe anything I see from a lot of these.
He's turning 28 in like a week or so, I think, too.
Okay, well, like my fucking T-shirt's 28. Like, I don't give a shit about that. I'm saying, like, is he 27 or is he 40? Like, right. Look, we've gotten some misinformation lately, but I do think he can go to the ground. I think he's more willing to go to the ground. I think it's like, Liam, like, I'm curious about your thoughts about this. We see dudes that they get that ego with the hands or they fall in love with it so much that they go away from the things they're good at. And I think Garcia came in the UFC. He wanted to like be on SportsCenter and get like an Insta highlight with his hands. And now he's realizing, look, there's many ways I can it's a matter of winning fights. It's not a matter of I got to knock the guy out to like get my next fight. Like go in there, win your next fight. You'll get more fights. Like I think he has a huge advantage here if he chooses to. And look, do you want to hold a -200 ticket on a dude in the 3rd round of this fight? No, you don't.
If both guys are dog tired, I would put my money on
Garcia
Rafa all the time.
Absolutely. Yeah. You want a guy that fights for your money. So I think he can go to the ground here, and I think he can make it. I think he can make weird, ugly rounds out of it, man. Garcia's split decision's probably a good bet too, but I got to look that one up now.
My old wrestling coach used to say it's wrestling. We're going to get tired. It's about who can perform when they get tired. And I do think that's a potential difference maker. That's something that you want from an underdog, especially, there's a couple different ways you could find live underdogs, in my opinion. One of them is a guy you think is going to win the 1st round at a high clip that is the underdog. It's like, that gives me a good opportunity to get off this position if things start to go poorly. But then you can go back in the other direction as well. And you could say, hey, if I know this guy might start to taper off a little bit, the other guy might start to come on strong. If somebody's going to put down the pack, as they say in the coaching community, you could pick that up and run with it. I discussed that very concept in my interview with my man Blake Perry earlier. So if you're looking for some entertainment on a Sunday, make sure you check out Uriah Faber's A1 Combat. You'll see my man Blake Perry. I know a lot of you guys that have been rocking with the show for a while cashed in when he was a +700 underdog. But now go support him. Follow him on Instagram, Blake MMA 170. Very good dude. Great fighter, entertaining cat. So go check that out. Get subscribed to the channel if you're not already, and appreciate you guys rocking with us. Guys, we got another one. This is the talk of the Twitter streets here at the heavyweight class. We did have my man Lou bring it up before. We've got Hamdi Abdelwahab, excuse me. I want to get that right. And I think that Hamdi, he's an interesting guy. Got to give him the shout out. He's repping New York. Gotta always give credence to that. Killer B, that's a team that competes locally in some of the grappling tournaments and things like that. So I think that he's getting a pretty good, pretty reputable training. I don't think Killer B is, some slouch gym like a lot of people have made it out to be. But that being said, he's got 3 professional fights and 2, bare knuckle MMA bouts, so there's not a ton of data to go off of. He looks to me like a decent enough athlete. He can throw big looping punches. Seems like he's got a decent enough wrestling game from the very, very limited footage that I saw. I want to go back and actually watch some of his wrestling matches. I haven't had the chance to do so yet. I don't think that his wrestling pedigree is like he's going to take over the UFC. I don't think he's a Marco Madsen, world-class athlete that was able to make it to the top of the wrestling ladder. But I do think that, he's reasonably competitive, world level credentials. They're not easy to come by. Some places easier than others, but I don't think Egypt is just like a complete, nothing entity. I'm sure that they have a decent participatory rate. The wrestling participatory rate worldwide is pretty high. So I think that sometimes in the States and places where we have so many different sports to choose from, we don't always think about, when people have limited access to resources, wrestling is one of the easiest things to do. It's very cheap. It doesn't require a lot of, sophisticated technology. It's just a mat if you have one. And some places they just wrestle on dirt, and that's fine. I used to wrestle at a field with my training partners because that's what we had access to in the summer. So it's all about just getting experience. I do think Hamdi has been, ridiculed real bad this week. It seems like everybody has a Dontel Mays ticket. I think the early numbers, that makes a lot of sense. I do think it's a little bit of interesting level of confidence in Dontel Mays, who has lost a number of bouts at the UFC level, had several opportunities before he was able to break through on the Contender Series as well. So I don't think he's a bad fighter by any means. We saw a much better product against Josh Parisian, but Josh Parisian was just fighting for his job against Alain Badeau. It's like that's not the highest level heavyweights that inspire a ton of confidence. Like, oh, Dontel Mays beat that guy, so he's a lock to beat any other new heavyweight signee. I think that the experience factor is big. I think that that's probably going to be the ultimate difference maker here. It's a huge, level gap to go from the shows that he's been on to a UFC pay-per-view. So I think ultimately those nerves, that energy, the fact that Dontel Mays has been there and gone 3 rounds is going to make the difference for him. I think I would predict him to win the fight, but I just think that the confidence I've seen in Dontel Mays this week is a little bit shocking based on his prior perception in people's minds. So I'm just going to lay off this one and leave it to the rest of the folks. Patrick, what do you think?
Yeah, man, I pulled the trigger on Dontel Mays. I never thought I would do it, but I pulled the trigger on it. So I didn't get the best end of the odds on that one because I believe I was talking to Wheezy last night. He said this opened up as a underdog play on Dontel Mays. You could have gotten plus money on him. I know WizBets got plus money. I think 2 different tickets on him. So very jealous there. I got the short end of the stick by the time I did all of the tape study on Hamdi. But, man, I'm a fan of Hamdi. He's got the funniest crew of cans that he's crushed so far. I mean, these people are talking about this guy, Matt Strickland. He fought in Gamebred, George Masvidal's promotion, kind of calling him like the 6'6" pair. But you need to go watch his fight in MMA down in Miami. He fought this guy named Tyler Lee, who looks like Guy Fieri, the Flavortown guy, looks just like him, and he disposed of him in a few seconds. But what happens when he comes in against a guy 6'6", UFC experience, not high-level UFC experience, but a guy in Dontel Mays who has never folded very early in a fight. Hamdi's finishing guys in one punch, a ground and pound sequence that lasts 30 seconds. That's not going to happen with Dontel Mays, who's got the huge size advantage, and he's been durable, unless it's against a grappler like Nascimento or Cyril Gans, just on a different level entirely. But, the guy has only been finished, I think, in the 3rd round. So he lasts, and he's durable, and he's got a huge size and experience advantage. Give me Dontel Mays. I won't get this opportunity to bet against a guy like Hamdi for a while.
Hey, there you go. I think that plain and simple makes a lot of sense to me. Gordo, do you agree? A lot of people like a Dontel Mays.
Yeah, and I'm one of them. I got a -110 ticket on him.
Doesn't sound excited about
Dude, you just sounded like Eeyore, bro. You were like, I bet
Dontel Mays.
Dude, I'm tired, and I'm over here talking about Hamdi, and this is a weird fight.
Be professional, Gordo. Be a pro.
Yeah, all right. I got 2 units with Dontel Mays. I think he wins this fight. I think he's a guy who goes out there and is just an all-around better mixed martial artist. Sure, Hamdi has the wrestling, but what else does he have? Even at that, does he have the ability to go out there and control the much bigger, much more experienced fighter? Does he have the ability to go out and defend against those that purple belt in Dontel Mays? Does he have any grappling in his own right? There's so many question marks on the Hamdi side that I don't know why he opened up as the favorite. I do think that any day of the week, Dontel Mays is going to have the advantage in the striking, going to have the advantage in the cardio, going to have the advantage in the experience, going to have the advantage in the size, even have the advantage in the grappling. So many advantages for Dontel Mays. I do think that Dontel Mays is the guy who should be winning this fight. All the way up to -200, probably not. But however, at that -110 price tag, I jumped on it for a couple of units. What I did also add was some submission. Plus 2,000. We added that in there. Let's test out the purple belt. Let's get a nice little club and sub there. And of course, the unders. Hamdi's path to victory seems to be probably a 1st round finish. We haven't seen his cast tank too much. Haven't seen too much from him. Therefore, give me the under all day. I'm liking that. And I hope that was enough excitement for this high level clash for you guys.
Dude, it was a ton of excitement. You brought the heat. Don't you worry about a thing. And, if you're just looking at pure advantages on paper, I mean, the reach advantage, massive. the size advantage, hard to discount, right? It's like the guy just has a much bigger frame, so that could also pay huge dividends for these guys that got in early. Because you're not paying a ton of juice for a lot of anthropomorphic advantages, as we do like to say on the show. They were mocking me in the chat. Lou, what do you think, my man?
Okay, so first of all, when I was a kid, we wrestled in dirt fields uphill both ways. Like, you have it easy, just so you know. Secondly, the fact that this dude's nickname is an old-fashioned Hamdi is like the worst. Like, just lean into it, bro. Like, I don't know how many times we're going to see in the UFC. Just be old-fashioned Hamdi. Gordo is looking at me. He has no idea what the hell I'm talking about. Patrick, 1,000,000% knows what I'm talking about with that comment. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he knows.
I got you, Lou.
I'm being a dirty old man, Gordo. I'm sorry. Like, you guys broke it down perfectly. I got him at -130, and I have the same enthusiasm as Gordo did. I'm like, yeah, I have Tatel Mays. Like, he's better everywhere. I just want to bring up, like, to add to it, the one fight that he lost, this Corey Norman fight. I know it's like 2.5 years ago, but like, he got taken down by Corey Norman willingly and like controlled. And then the only reason he beat him is Norman, like, he went for a Superman punch without actually flailing his arms. He like did this and he got caught and he fell over and then he lost. And then like Hamdi got disqualified.
Hey, Hamdi reversed positions. He got inside control after getting taken down. He redeemed himself. But
my point is, he seems willing to be like, cool, let's go to the ground. Like, I'm an expert there. And Mays is a big dude, man. Like, and Mays is a surprisingly good offensive wrestler. I don't think he's a great grappler by any means, but I think he's good as an offensive wrestler. Like, look, I know Parisian stinks, but the crucifix was good. Like, it was smart, and it was smart. It actually showed like progression to get a finish. So can he do that against Hamdi? 1,000,000%. That's probably, in fact, if he wins by crucifix punches, I wouldn't be surprised. I have him at -130. I have 1 unit on him. If I lose it, like, I probably deserve to lose it, but not so much if you bet him now at -200 or whatever. Like, this line's gotten away, and time props are probably okay here too. But this is still like it's still Dontel Mays, guys. Like, it's still Dontel Mays, who won by I'm not on my channel, so I'll just say it a different way. He won by a full scucking in his last fight against Josh Parisian. So
now we got Hamdi coming in, 3 professional bouts, and a bunch of other fake stuff. Does the UFC know something that we don't know? Why did he open up as a favorite? What's the deal here, and why is he even in the UFC? Are we going to be looking in a year from now and saying, oh yeah, Hamdi Abdelwahab, the top 10 heavyweight championship frontrunner? He started off in George Masvidal's game-bred bare-knuckle MMA. Remember that? That's funny. Does the UFC know something we don't know, or what's
I was going to say, I think that the fact that the line opened up that way was super interesting to me. It seemed to me like they're trying to build a Mays liability because, like, as far as I'm concerned, like, they know that people are going to get to the window and fade a guy with 3 fights, as far as I'm concerned. So why would they open him up a dog? And it's not like market wide they opened him up like -150 because they saw they were getting steamed on a. He opened -115 almost everywhere. You could go look. So it's like, at worst, they were opening this guy at Pick'em in most places. And I think one book opened a -150. They moved back. Like, they dropped it down for a little bit, and then they went back the other direction. So the line movement's been very interesting to me on this fight. But I'm just looking right now at some of the sharper markets, and he's -200. So it's like, something's got to give, but I have a feeling every bookmaker is going to be sitting there with a Hamdi shrine by fight time, just burning, offerings to see if they can get Hamdi across the finish line based on the amount of volume they
Hamdi by DQ.
Oh,
like, well, you're talking
it's
about,
a lock.
Well, but like, you're bringing up a point about like book liability here. Hamdi by like, right now I just have to say it the way I have to say it. Hamdi by fuckery seems like it's live if you want to buy into like that they're on the handle for, like, Vegas is on the handle for a lot of money on this fight, man.
I will say, though, the same thing happened with the Mozarov fight, where they took an extreme amount of action to move the line from, like, I think it was even or something like that to like -250 on the Alonzo Menafield side.
Well, they also didn't know. Well, also they didn't know all the shit that was going to come out like days later with like, now his record's this. Like, Like that was
Shout out WizBets. Check out his interview, guys, if you want to know more about the Askar Mozarov story.
He's
It's
gonna
a
be interviewing.
WizBets exclusive.
He's gonna be interviewing Pretoria like in 2 weeks. I swear to God.
Hey, we'll see how it goes, right? He might have a chance. But what we have a chance to do is break down a very entertaining lightweight fight. We got Drew Dober, the handsomest man in the UFC. I'm kidding, of course. But we've got him taking on Rafael Alves, very dangerous first-round fighter. You know, this is a guy who a lot of people were impressed with the Ismagulov fight. I think that's for obvious reasons. He nearly put the guy on the ropes. The guy definitely carries big power for his division. However, regionally, had a lot of losses, did seem to have some cardio problems. You know, anybody who's a really dynamic first-round finisher, that's kind of the pro and the con. You know, they could get that going. They look like a minus 500 hindsight favorite. Like, how could this guy lose? He looks like a stud. But then when they do lose, it tends to be a dominant decision. You know, it tends to be they get finished later on in the fight. I think that all of those are live possibilities here. You know, Drew Dober, I do think that the writing's on the wall a little bit in terms of the chin, in terms of his ability to take damage long-term. You know, I think that Lindsay's making a valid point. Sometimes you got to stop Brazilian hate. I'm not sure if this is that case, though, because I will say, you know, Drew Dober has surprised me before. I thought that the McKinney fight, you know, I bet McKinney by sub in that spot. I thought that might be the one, and he was able to take that beating. He was able to last through it, and he was able to make his own moments happen. I don't know that that's sustainable long-term, but I also don't think that Alves is capable of producing that same kind of flurry. You know, Alves tends to be a big shot guy, like lands a big strike or two and then goes for the sub. I'm not sure that he's going to flurry with volume in the same way that McKinney was early in that fight. He landed so much damage quickly. But could Alves get him with one shot that changes the fight? Yeah, he absolutely could. Am I certain it's going to happen? No. And because the line has gotten away from me, I think I'm going to practice some discipline and pass on this one. I think that if you got Alves, anything above plus 200, it's just an easy look there. Too much variance at that stage. You know, the age gap, certain things to bet into there. But I think that now line's a little bit more close to accurate. Definitely Drew Dober's been tested at the higher level in the UFC, but some causes for concern. You know, he's given up takedowns to guys who aren't primary wrestlers and grapplers. You know, I think that Alves, he's not the most aggressive wrestler. That's kind of a fault to his game as well. He's got this dynamic submission game. You never see it because he spends half his fights at range throwing to the body and stuff. But I think this is a great fight. I think it's very compelling. Lightweight always leads to high action, you know, highly entertaining scraps. And I think we're going to get another one on Saturday night. Lou, what do you think?
Yeah, so this is one of the biggest bets I have. I just haven't put it in Bet MMA tips, but I got the under 2.5 at minus 145, like when it first came out. I love it here. And by the way, at the rest of the way out, if you haven't checked out props to consider and then maybe bet on the MMA engine that I did today, where I did the Boilermaker Shui to pay off Paul Shaughnessy, I have a prop on every fight going forward. So I will give out the props that I like here too. I like Dober round 2 KO at plus 600. I think Alves is very live. Everything you said, Liam. I think Alves is very live for a sub, especially early, which is plus it's almost 10-1 for the round 1 sub from Alves. I considered it. Ultimately, for me, if it hits the ground, I feel like Dober has a huge edge. If it stays on the feet, yeah, Dober can get cracked, and he's been hurt before. I actually think it's going to play out very similar to the McKinney fight, where Alves is going to fire his shots. He's going to hurt Dober, but Dober's going to recover. I'm also, to your point, Liam, I think it's only a matter of time for that chin goes. And this might be the fight. Alves could definitely hit hard enough to make it happen. But I think Dober's going to hang in. I think he's going to survive. I think in round 2, Alves is going to go for a guillotine. He's going to lose it. It'll be a real bad spot. I think Dober's just going to pound them out. So give me Dober round 2. Could he beat him in round 1? Sure. But I think Dober can just withstand the initial onslaught. I'm not discounting Alves at all, but Dober in the distance is a good look. The under 2.5, I hit. It's my favorite bet of the card. That's what I'm going to give out to John Kelly. Like, it's my favorite bet of the entire card. But this round 2 is the prop I'm planning to go with it. So there you go.
I like it, man. I like it. And I think that that's kind of the complexion of this fight. You know, when I looked at the fight card, one of the dynamics that stood out to me is a couple of these fights where if it ends early, you kind of have a feeling you know who it's going to be. But then as the fight goes on, you kind of feel like the other fighter might take over. I think that that's what we might see in this spot. I think that we might see Drew Dober work his way back in and take over. But if you keep giving away these first rounds, if you keep getting hurt, I do think there's always that possibility that one day you can't make that recovery. Ref steps in. I think there's refs that could have stopped that Terrence McKinney fight, truth be told. So I think that that's something he's got to be wary of, just staying within himself, keeping that defense high and keeping that neck out of danger. He's got a pretty built up shoulder basis. It's not easy to grab a hold of his neck, but when people have, he's relented a couple times. So got to be very wary of that. Patrick, what do you think?
He's not keeping that neck out of danger. I got Alves here round 1 sub at plus 950, quarter unit on that. And I got, a unit on the underdog price on Alves as well. I like him in this fight, and every single person that has beaten Dober has really exploited the weakness of his wrestling or his grappling, and we're going far back into his early UFC days. We're talking about Efrain Escudero. We're talking about Aubin Mercier. We're talking about, and then most recently, like Brad Riddell. So he's always struggling against guys that can take him down, control him. Is that going to be Alves? Probably not. I think Alves does hurt him early, though, and then instead of trying to do the grounded pound flurry like Terrence McKinney, he dives on necks very, very smoothly. So I'm taking Alves round 1 sub. I do see the hesitancy of some people. Maybe you see a guy like that and you think there's no way he can sustain a pace later in the fight. He did show in the Ismagula fight he could kind of, work out of bad positions even around 2 and 3. Not completely gassed, but I would live bet Drew Dober if you're on that side after round 1. Probably get closer to even money if you can.
Yeah, I think that makes a ton of sense from a strategic standpoint as well. Mitigate that chance of Drew Dober getting nuked in the first round by waiting it out a little bit. Gordo, what do you think?
Yeah, I actually think that Alves is going to be my most owned underdog on DraftKings this week. I do think that he's a guy with a really high ceiling and the opportunity to go out there and have a pretty exciting fight. With that being said, I do like Lou's standpoint on this one. Dober's a guy who also has the ability to withstand damage and dish it out as well. It's a spot where the under is probably a good look, but I'm leaning towards the Alves side. I do think he has more finishing equity here, and I do think, like Patrick mentioned, that submission is probably going to be there. 4 submission losses for Drew Dober, and I think that Alves is really snappy and really tough with it. He's a really strong, powerful guy, very explosive, and he just has the ability to go out there and snatch things up really fast. I'm not getting as cute as Patrick with that plus 900 round 1. I'm taking his subline in general plus 500. Hoping he's working on that cardio, so I do like that spot there as well. I'm taking Alves. Probably going to go in the under as well, but definitely a DraftKings play for me as well.
I like it. So we've got a little bit of dissension. We all agree that there's likely to be a lot of violence in this fight. I think that makes a ton of sense, but we can see it on either end here. And like I mentioned, kind of seeing a little bit of that front-loaded potential, potentially on the Alves side, whereas maybe Drew Dober, he's got that comeback heroics round 2, round 3, something like that, where he makes a rally, fits in with Patrick's live betting standpoint. It fits in with Lou's prop selection as well. So could be a very good fight that we have on our hands. And Dober is now called the Chin. I think he's the Crimson Chin of the lightweight division, and he's been holding it down for a while. So let's see if he can put it to use one more time this weekend. But we know that Rafael Alves is going to test it early and often, and it should be a heck of a fight. So with that being said, guys, I believe this is going to be our featured bout to close out the preliminary card. Alex Moreno is taking on Semi the Jedi. Believe Semi the Jedi went to college in New York, so I wrongly attributed him as a New Yorker, but he's from Maryland. He's a pretty decent fighter. Seems to me like the UFC really, really likes this guy, right? You look at the matchmaking he's gotten, it's been, almost laughable at times in the UFC, but they've given him a lot of guys who are chinny. They've given him a lot of guys that he could exploit. And when they tested him, I thought that he showed up and looked pretty good. There was some cause for concern in the Chaos Williams fight. He took some damage there, but there was also some positive signs. He kind of got a tongue lashing after a pretty tepid round 2, and he came back out and gave a much more spirited effort in round 3. And so I thought that there was an argument that he could have won that fight. I think that I gave it to Chaos Williams, but I thought it was very close. And it was the kind of fight that made me think, man, maybe Semi with a little bit of seasoning, with a little bit more work can be effective, especially on the feet. I think there's a little bit more of that question mark on the ground. If I'm Moreno and his team, I'm trying to push, a grappling advantage here. I'm trying to get on this kid's back. I'm trying to test him from there. However, if I think that I'm getting the Alex Moreno I'm used to getting. It's a guy who likes to go out there and strike. He likes to go out there and put on a kickboxing performance. He likes to test himself in those ranges. And I think that if he is, maturing into a spot where he wants to contend for titles and that kind of thing, then maybe he's going to come out here and put on that wrestling-based performance. But if he wants to have fun and he's at home in Texas and doing his thing and slinging leather, I think there's a chance that this guy semi puts a big shot on his chin and puts him out. Chaos was able to do that quickly, put him down bad. This guy is a guy who throws with his hands down. He throws a lot of kicks from inside a range. And I think that most of the time that's fine because he out volumes people and he makes them work at a pace they're not comfortable with. Maybe he could do that to semi here. But if semi is able to counter him with those, attributes like we talk about, he's got the height, he's got the length, he's a little bit stronger, he's the younger fighter. I think that those things could pay dividends for him here. So in terms of props, maybe there's some value to be had on Moreno, but I don't love the money line price. I think it's a little bit lower than what I would get involved with personally on the Moreno side. But there's so much volume on the Semmelsberger side that it makes me a little bit scared as well to get involved there. I'm going to do a little bit more due diligence on his regional tape. I did watch his regional fights. I have some notes on them, but I haven't watched them in quite some time. It's been a while. So I'm going to go, oh my goodness. Of course, first time I've ever gotten a complete spam bot in the chat. Block that out. But I think that this should be a hell of a fight, and I'm interested to see where you guys shake out on this. Gordo has seemed like he's been revving his engine over there. What do you got, brother?
Oh no, the complete opposite. I was laughing at your your little spam in chat there. This is one where, for being completely honest, I should probably be Eeyore again and be a bit down on it. I saw the name Alex Moreno, and he is probably one of the guys I've lost the most money on. I can't get this guy right, and I haven't done my due diligence at researching the fight. I've done my least amount of research on this one. I do think
I completely misread this then, huh?
Yeah. I mean, I'm tired. You're getting a good you're getting a tricky day with me today, but I wasn't gonna miss this one at all. Anyways, point being, Eric broke it down really well earlier. You have the better athlete in Matthew Semmelsberger, who's going to be more explosive, versus the better technical fighter in Alex Moreno. What wins the fight here? Is it going to be the minute winner or the moment winner? In my opinion, I do think that technically it's with the more power, the more better ability to finish the fight, it's probably going to be Matthew Semmelsberger. But with that ground game Moreno has, with the technical aspect of playing from range, it's a weird fight that I can't call. It's one that I haven't done the proper research on, and I'm going to leave it to you three beauties to give it out there. But personally, based on the limited tape I've done, I'm going to pick Matthew the Semi, the Jedi.
I like where your head's at. Patrick, what do you think?
It's another underdog in a row for me. I'm taking Moreno this time for sure. This guy has been in the UFC for 15 fights, gone 10-5 in those, consistently outlanding his opponents, and he's always going to be the underdog and overlooked. I mean, you see how the guy is physically built. Looks like he has never seen the sun a day in his life, and for being at welterweight, not very muscular, defined, or ripped up either. But, I think that's going to make a lot of the general public, bet against them. And I've been one of those guys too. You see this guy, I saw him when he debuted, and I was like, who is this? But he's been consistent over time. And Semmelsberger has been great, and I'm a fan of the guy. But who has he faced? He's faced three guys making their debut, right? Martin Sano, who's a nobody. Carlston Minus, the Alaska FC guy that never won and is now out.
Legend Carlton Minus. He was a favorite, by the way. Carlton Minus opened -3 on.
They were both making their debut that time. And now he fought a much better UFC debutant in AJ Fletcher, I believe that was, right? So he showed pretty good ability on both the ground and the stand-up and working through fatigue and bad positions, but barely squeaked through that one. And his other one's a win over Chaos Williams. A loss over that. That was a very close fight. Durability is a big thing for me here, and UFC experience, another big thing for me here. And I think this line should be a pick 'em at worst, if not the favorite on Moreno here, to be honest with you. So I'm just going off of the proven history I've seen. I know it's not over the best opponents for Moreno, but it's consistency over time, and I can't look past that. I'm taking Moreno here on the money line.
Nice, man. And I think that's a fine angle. When you look at somebody who's been riding a wave of momentum, but then you look and you say, oh, wait, none of these guys could keep a job in the UFC. Hey, it's cause for skepticism, especially at that chalk price. So I think that you may be onto something there.
I'm also on the overs for this fight, too. The overs I like. I think this does play out, the durability from Moreno over time, and Semmelsberger has the cardio to go. I think no matter where this goes, who wins, I think it does go over.
Cool. I haven't looked at the totals for this fight. I'll look and see what the price is. As my man Lou breaks down, what do you got?
the exact opposite of what Patrick just said.
Ah,
I'm not only on Semmelsberger, I'm on his round 1 KO. I objectively thought pre-tape I was going to be on Moreno. I thought he was going to have advantages with volume. I thought he was going to have advantages on the ground. In all honesty, the one fight that does it for me the most is Semmelsberger. Like, I don't care about the Sano fight. I don't care about the Witt fight. You can't learn anything about anybody from those fights. This AJ Fletcher fight is like super intriguing to me because Fletcher, and I had money on Fletcher that night. Fletcher
How
came
about
out,
3 units at plus 205?
but Fletcher came out, and Semmelsberger, to me, that's the most adversity he'd ever faced. Because like the Chaos Williams one was a stand-up thing. He just couldn't get his boxing going. Fletcher was dominating him for a round, and Semmelsberger turned it around. I know Fletcher came in on short notice. Look, I understand that, but I actually was impressed with what Semmelsberger did on the ground. Now, Liam, you brought up a good point. They seem to like this guy, and they're trying to bring him along. Can Moreno take him down and make it ugly? I'm sure he could. Do I think he will? No, I think he's going to try to put on a show. And that's why I like Semmelsberger so much. I think Semmelsberger has crazy good power. This dude has some legitimate knockout power. And I question Moreno's durability. If Moreno wants to make this a firefight, he's going to die. Like, Semmelsberger is going to crush him. I don't know what his ceiling is in the UFC, but he's improving. Like, I think from the Fletcher fight to the Chaos Williams fight, you saw a dude that figured out a way to win a fight where he had to just go off his game plan. And when I see fighters do that, especially so young into their careers, like, he's still pretty raw, I'm impressed. So I like the Semmelsberger. I get the dog shot on Moreno here, like I do. But like, you guys are talking about Semmelsberger's like unimpressive wins. Like, this dude just knocked out 90-year-old Cowboy Cerrone in like a minute. Like, come on, dude. Like, there's a lot of like weird results that we have to filter out here. So I think the line should probably be closer. I don't think I'm getting great value, but I really think Semmelsberger just all day batters him until the fight ends in the first round. Plus 600, round 1 KO.
The fight that put me off Moreno was just the Anthony Pettis fight. You know, I thought that was a fight that he should win. And I have lost money fading this guy. That's the truth of my betting history with Moreno. I've lost money fading him. But I also tried to bet him that night, and he let me down against Anthony Pettis. I was like, dude, are you serious? Like, Anthony, I don't know that Anthony Pettis has won 2 fights since then. So just, he got hurt badly in that fight. I thought that his gas tank fell off a little bit at the later stage of that fight, kind of because he tried to grapple. So it turned into a weird performance for me. But I also think he's shown his better performances in the UFC in his 3 most recent bouts. So I want to give him that credit. He bounced back well from the Pettis fight, but that for me was just a look where I was like, man, I'm going to look for an opportunity to fade this guy, and haven't found a great one since. Tried to get involved twice and to no avail. So I'm interested to see if he's able to get the win here. He is fighting in his hometown of Texas, but like I said, it's a guy the UFC's been trying to set up in semi. So I think there's, narrative reasons for both guys. Shout out the chat. They brought up it's Shark Week. How could you bet against the great white shark? Hey, that might be enough to get me to pass on it, choose violence, and look for, maybe another bet to target. But with that being said, guys, we got a main card to break down, and it starts with everybody's favorite light heavyweight prospect, except mine. I'm kidding. But Magomed Ankalaev, very talented guy. I think regionally he looked even better than he's looked in the UFC, truth be told. I think that the Paul Craig fight has been a little bit of a hindrance to his development. I think we've seen a lot less aggression as a result. I haven't loved the fact that he was unable to put away the Thiago Santoses of the world. I thought that was a fight he was going to win in emphatic fashion. Lost some money on him inside the distance there. So for me, Ankalaev has been adequate, but a little bit less than satisfactory, in terms of expectations versus reality. Everybody's telling me he's the next big guy at light heavyweight, but I think that, Jamal Hill, to early preview might be able to get the job done inside the distance against Thiago Santos, right? He might bring a different energy, a different approach to that fight. Whereas Ankalaev, he kind of got stunned in that fight as well. So he just brought it to a much more tepid pace. I think the problem for Anthony Smith is that he could lose this fight on minutes and just have 15 minutes pass him by before he's able to find his way into the fight. Smith, a couple of his biggest wins have been like 4th round submission and this kind of thing, where he's able to get these comeback wins on guys. And Ankalaev has shown now he can go for 5 rounds. He was able to do that in his last bout. He was able to go 3 full rounds as well in the UFC. Been going to decision with these guys. So I think that Ankalaev's a good fighter. I think he's dangerous. But I do think people have underrated Anthony Smith in the past. I was cashing in on those spots when I could get him inside the distance at a very generous price against Ryan Superman Spann. Thought that was a crazy line. I thought he was going to hurt him in that fight because Smith throws a good amount of volume on the feet early. And I also think that maybe people overread some of those losses right after he had a home invasion. Like, at the end of the day, these fighters are human beings. And my dude got in there like 2 weeks after a home invasion and got beat to hell. It's like the guy was out of it. I thought he looked bad for a couple of fights. And I do think he is certainly a live underdog in this spot. But for me, I think he's probably going to lose a unanimous decision here where he gets a couple hope spots on a triangle that doesn't quite come to pass and these kind of things. I just don't think that this is a fight that I'm going to end up targeting either. Because from a totals perspective, Anthony Smith does get finished a lot in his losses. And the one problem I really have is Ankalaev, if he fights his best, could knock out anybody. That's the truth. When I watched this regional tape, that's the conclusion I came to is like, this guy is really dangerous. He's got power. He's tricky. He could switch stances. Like, he just offers a lot on the feet. But he hasn't been throwing it all. He hasn't been giving everything. Maybe he feels a little more confidence and a little bit more willingness to let go of his skills in this spot. And if he does, he could be a vicious finisher. His ground and pound is disgusting as well. So I think that people might have forgot a little bit about Ankalaev and how dangerous he can be at his best. But he's got to give them a reason to remember. He's been turning in some stinkers lately. So for me, not inspired to bet him at -500. Lou, what do you think?
Oh, man, do not tail this bet. It is Smith season.
Oh, boy.
I love the guy. I'm a Smith truther. I just love watching him fight. So, I'm just getting out of the way. I know we're here to, help the people, the unwashed masses with their bets. But I love watching the dude fight. And the one thing I'm going to say is this. If there's one thing Ankalaev does not like, it's dudes that pressure him. He hates, except for Kudryaba, because Kudryaba is so sloppy. He does not like when dudes get in his face. And Smith is another dude. He fights for your money, The funny thing is I'm not worried about Ankalaev putting him away. So that gives Smith 15 minutes to figure it out. He's got vet savvy. He's got experience. He climbed the mountain once. Look, there's an alternate universe where he wins the title because he accepts the belt for a DQ. He's not like that. He's worked his way back up.
That alternate universe, he gets in a fight with Dana White in the back office. He's like, "You son of a gun!"
Well, I know, but also he made the decision. He's rattled.
He's the man, dude. He's actually so commendable as a competitor for that.
And there's a narrative side here where man, we've seen all these 4-year-old dudes make a run. He's getting up there. Could this be a run? I've joked with Brady and Weezy for a year that he's going to win the belt and then Jamal Hill's going to beat him in 9 seconds. That's going to be the progression of the title. But I think that Smith objectively can pressure him. Could Ankalaev take him down and just make it boring? He sure could. But he hasn't shown that he kind of thinks that's the way to do it. I think Smith can be competitive on the feet. I think he can land the harder shots. Could he get knocked out? Absolutely. But Ankalaev hasn't really, he's not some one hit or quit guy. He's a volume guy. And I think Smith could kind of pop him. So I'm on the Smith side and I'm on Smith round 3 plus 2,900 as a nice little prop because very good chance Smith could be down 2-0. Very, very good chance he's down 2-0 in the third. And I trust him to at least spend 5 minutes going for the finish. I do.
I think that that's right. I just think the one problem is Ankalaev might have that safety valve of shoot a takedown, get on top. Anthony Smith's takedown defense has let him down a little bit in the past. But man, I'm going to be rooting for you at the huge plus number.
Jimmy Crute with one leg took him down. So I mean, let's call it what it is. His takedown defense to a one-legged man was bad. but it doesn't mean Ankalaev is going to.
It was actually 0. It was like
He had
negative
zero.
0. He was getting taken down every time.
He had one knee and no legs, but doesn't mean Ankalaev's going to do it. And it also doesn't mean that Anthony Smith hasn't been working on that. We just don't know.
True that. He did move camps as well, which is something I'm a little bit eyebrows raised about.
Smith season.
Hey, cheers, my man. It could be a good thing. It could be a tricky thing. Patrick, what do you think, man?
Yeah, this is a fun fight, and it's I like Anthony Smith too. I also like Ankalaev. And the numbers for Smith as far as like fight doesn't go is staggering, right? He's had like 52 professional bouts. He had like 35 before even coming into the UFC. Only 5 of those have actually gone to decision. So finishing people, getting finished. And then that confuses me because Ankalaev never puts himself in bad situations, kind of like Lou was saying, right? He can get the finishes over these wild man strikers like Kutalaba, the chinny Marcin Proknios, like a tired third round Dulce Lungiambula. But he's not finishing these guys like Santos over 5 rounds. And Smith, he's been in, 8 headlining spots, only been to the 5th round a couple times, and they didn't go well for him. So I think he is going to burn time off the clock, like you said, Liam, right? He's very, very content as Smith to play jiu-jitsu off of his back. And I think Ankalaev will stay safe in those positions. And I broke it down the exact same way Liam did, where I think we'll have those ooh-ah moments in the crowd where, the legs go up, maybe he gets a triangle trying to start working, and then Ankalaev can maybe advance to a better position, keep on grinding out minutes on the clock. I think it's an Ankalaev, win here. How do you play this, though? This should be maybe 2-1 or 3-1 in the favor of Ankalaev, not where the money line is now. This is just absurd. And I don't know how to play it any other way than Lou. I mean, losing the value sides of these things, I think Smith, he's got finishing potential. So if you get those big, juicy prop numbers on the finish, I like that a lot, but it's no bet for me. I don't know how to play this fight. Even the overs and unders, as I mentioned, are confusing to me, but I'm very confident Ankalaev. He's almost my most confident fighter of the week.
I love it, Patrick. I think that makes a fair deal of sense as well. Gordo, do you agree? You like Ankalaev? What do you think, my G?
I love me some Anthony Lionheart Smith, but it's so hard for me to back him this week against someone who's so defensively sound as Magomed Ankalaev. I mean, he does a lot of things very, very well. With that being said, we haven't really seen him dragged into deep waters. I've said that a few times this week, and we haven't really seen him tested and really put into a big dogfight because he is so defensively sound. With that being said, this is one where I'm cheering for Anthony Smith. I think he's a very smart guy, and I think he's going to go out there and do what he has to do to win. And I think that he honestly has the more finishing potential in this fight. I completely forgot about the prop market, and I saw a tweet from Danny Lags that mentioned a bet that I should have, and I tailed him on it. He said, Lionheart Smith, scorecards, no action. And that's what I took here. I think that Lionheart Smith has a lot more of the finishing equity than Ankalaev in the spot and is sitting at plus 350 right now. I thought that was absolutely absurd. I think that the submission could be there if he really wants to make Ankalaev uncomfortable. And I think that's his win condition, is he has to make him uncomfortable. I don't think he's the minute winner. He's not as defensively sound. And of course, that knockout is definitely there for Ankalaev. I mean, he does a lot of things very, very right, but he's not going to have the experience edge. I don't think he's necessarily going to have the same grappling edge. And I don't think he necessarily has that same finish edge here. And therefore, I'm looking at the finish only on the other side. Most likely outcome is probably an Ankalaev decision. In that case, it pushes. I'm okay with that all day. But of course, I'm cheering for my man, Anthony Lionheart Smith.
So here is the final problems that I have with the Anthony Lionheart Smith side, and also the reason I might not get cute with props on this. Anthony Smith, known as a very tough guy, and I agree with that assessment, but also 13 out of 16 losses inside the distance. That's hard to ignore.
I thought you were going to bring up the meth thing.
Oh, no. God, no. I'm not going to bring up that. But what I will.
That's a bad look, too.
I'll bring up a worse look. He's 2-3 in decisions. Fighting a guy who we think has really good decision optics, who probably has the grappling upside. I mean, if you look at the stats, it suggests that heavily. Then if you look at their striking differential on the feet, that actually also favors Ankalaev. If you look at the power metrics, that favors Ankalaev. It's like, for me, there's just so many things that are in his favor in this fight. It will take a Anthony Smith, finishing sequence, I think, to get him the win. So for me, if I was targeting the Anthony Smith side, I would prefer to look Anthony Smith ITD for at least a portion of my position. you don't want to get too cute. If you can get a money line, you take a money line at a very good high plus number on a good fighter like this. But I just think to maximize ROI, I think most of his win equity is inside the distance here. So look for the prop like Gordo mentioned, finish only market. The only problem I have with that is just I could see Nikolai finishing on the other side as well. He has been fighting to a lot of decisions, but maybe people have been getting in his ear like, hey, man, if you want to move up the ranks in this company, you got to get a finish this weekend. We gave you a guy you can finish. Go out there and get the job done. And I think that if Ankalaev throws with full power on the feet and commits to stepping in the pocket, we might be looking at an Ankalaev crazy knockout. He does have real power. It has translated in the past. And I think that if he commits, he can generate power.
Liam, you know what else you could do? You could
What's
bet
that?
you could bet 11 units 15 times on Bet MMA tips at Ankalaev plus 9,000 because apparently that's a thing that some people do. Didn't we see that?
My.
Didn't we see it with somebody betting not Penne? Who was Dakota? Didn't they bet they bet her at like plus 19,000 odds, like max units, like a bunch of times? You can just bet Ankalaev.
They're the smartest guy in the room, I bet.
Bet Ankalaev plus 9,000 over and over and over and over again, and like there you go. I guess that's one way to play it. Sorry, I had to get a dig in at some point about like these people that do this nonsense.
Yeah, and shout out to the people that are saying I don't bet the things I bet and saying such nonsense. I think you guys know by now. If I say it, I have a ticket. All these, like Patrick, he's new to the show. He's probably never seen a bet slip of mine, but I bet at Catskills Resort World. You can see the tickets I posted earlier on Twitter at Liam Picks Fights.
I follow all your stuff, man. I see you putting the haters in their place for sure. I love it.
Yeah, I'm trying, man, because I'm just sick of dealing with it. That's all. But
Uncle Lou's getting pissed. Uncle Lou's getting pissed that people are talking shit about Liam. Uncle Lou's starting to get really angry at it.
It is what it is. All I'll say is, do you think
Martino.
anybody would ever share a Mandy Bone bet in good conscience if they didn't have to? It's like, guys, I took the L, all right? I have the ticket. I lost the real American dollars. That's life. You make good bets, you make bad bets, and you move on at the end of the day. Nothing you can do. But I think that we have a bunch of great fights here that we could finish out with, including a flyweight fight. Alex Perez, if all goes well, will be in the cage for the first time in 2 years here, coming back from a title fight. So I talk about it all the time. Classic potential letdown spot. But with this amount of time passed, I do have to wonder, it certainly can't be a hunger problem on the Alex Perez side. If he didn't want to fight no more after 5 cancellations, he'd just say, thanks anyways, I'll see you later. I think that this guy is clearly motivated. More often than not, I think it was Schnell who said he didn't want to fight because he missed weight by like a pound. I think that will be a learning lesson for him. He's like, okay, I better come in on the weight or I might not even get a paycheck. So I think we're going to see him make weight. I do think that he might not be long for the weight class. Maybe we get another couple fights out of him at 125. But I think Alex Perez at this weight class, he's a problem, man. He's a potential problem. I think that you look at his losses inside the UFC. Are you going to really hold them against the man like too high? In terms of the fight that he lost to Joseph Benavidez, that's criminal. That's criminal fight stoppage. Like they clash heads right into each other, like complete headbutt. My man falls to the ground, and there's got to be 7 punches directly to his like brainstem. My dude's like ding, 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 and he's just like down bad. Then he comes back to, he's grabbing the wrist, he's doing everything right, and he gets finished. Clean finish at the end from Joe B. He goes to the shots to the outside of the head, but it's like the ref intervened and then stepped away. Weird stoppage, okay, against one of the bigger hitters from 125. That's like the claim to fame. The king of the cheeky nodder. Shout out Jack Slack. If you guys have been listening to Jack Slack for a long time, he talks about the cheeky nodder when you headbutt somebody as you jump into range. Very effective to set up, hooks in close. Joe Benavidez was looking to do that. He crashes in with his head, and my man goes half to sleep. It's like that for me is not really a clean stoppage, so I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. He got submitted by Davison Figueiredo. It's like, who didn't? It's like Moreno. Most other guys are really getting troubled by this guy. Pantoja as well, had to go to absolute war with him. But Figueiredo's a tough challenge for anybody to solve in the weight class. So I think that the fact Perez lost to him is no surprise. I had a bunch of units on Figueiredo to win that fight. But I was starting to feel a little sweaty as that fight was getting underway. I was like, man, this guy Alex Perez is looking pretty damn good. Then we got the submission in round 1. We locked up the choke. Guillotine, a man after my own heart. Had to love that. But now I'm seeing Alex Perez. He's coming in here. He's the younger guy. He looks to me a little bit fresher in terms of the damage he's taken inside of his fights. He's got a lot of fighting experience. He's not new to the cage. So he's been away for a while, but I do think it's going to be nothing new for him to get back in there. So maybe the first round he looks a little bit slow, but I think he can pick up the pack in rounds 2 and 3. I do think that he's got that capability. I think he can win a decision. I think he can out-wrestle this man potentially. Pantoja is a guy I love. His grappling transitions are sick. If he gets the back, this fight's probably over shortly thereafter. It very well could be. But if he's unable to take the back, I actually favor the wrestling that I've seen from Perez. I haven't seen Pantoja's record littered with all these guillotine chokes in this front choke series. He's a back taker. He's a pressure grappler. He likes to be on top of guys. He likes to out-wrestle them. I'm not sure he's going to be able to do that here. I think he's going to have a tougher time. And I think especially if cardio, if pace is a problem for you, wrestling with somebody like Alex Perez is going to be tough because he's extremely physical. So I think if you like Pantoja, I like Pantoja's sub as like the way to look for him, because I think that that's where he shines. Even if he lands some big power, I think he's going to look to take the back. Perez is a tough guy with good recoverability. I think that Pantoja is smart enough to go with the age-old adage. Nobody can tough guy a choke. You just go to sleep. So I think that that's the path for Pantoja here. But I do think that Perez has a little bit more paths potentially as an underdog here. He can land these low kicks from the outside. They're devastating. They've been able to stop guys in the UFC. They've been able to alter guys' movement. He's able to land good punches, hurt guys with his punches, put them down. So I think that Perez has a lot of upside here potentially. And I think he's being slept on because he's been so inactive. So I haven't played any bets on this fight yet, but if I get involved, it's probably going to be on the Perez side. Seems like a ton of love is on the Pantoja side. And for me, that's something that I'm gonna take my time and really do some due diligence here. But if the line continues to move out in the direction I want, I'd be very tempted on the underdog here. Gordo, what do you think, my brother?
You're being targeting spam today, but yeah, I am head to head with you here. I do have a bet on Pantoja this weekend, and I do think that the botched weight cuts and the inactivity, as well as the lack of defensive grappling, is really something that's leading me towards the Pantoja side. I do think that at the line it is now, the more money comes in on Pantoja, the more Perez does look live, because he is a good fighter. He is a title challenger. He is a guy with some good skills. But when you look and really dig into his wins in the UFC, as well as who is he really beating, and I know it's you can only beat the people in front of you, and the losses aren't awful, but that's what's happening. He isn't beating guys who are doing that well. What happens now is you have a guy in Perez who will be the better wrestler, but when you're wrestling, you're putting yourself into a dangerous position against a guy like Pantoja, because Pantoja is going to be the better offensive grappler. I know you know a lot more about me than BJJ, and he is a back taker, but I do think that the sweeps, everything I can see from tape on the ground is going to be there for Pantoja, because he is very deadly. Furthermore, if we look at the striking on the feet too, I don't think it's going to be clear for either fighter. I do think that we're going to have a better minute winner in Pantoja, because he seems to be very good at controlling range and going in and out. But it is going to be a close fight. I do think that is going to be edge towards Pantoja, and I did bet him at -155 to what I thought would be a very good edge in the market. And he is a guy who I think will win this fight at a higher clip than Perez will. I think that Perez's win condition relies on a decision win, which is going to be very, very dicey and greasy for that wrestling for the whole time, because you have to deal with the activity and the offensive grappling of someone like Alexandre Pantoja. Close fight. I'm liking the Pantoja side. I don't mind the dog shot at these odds aren't now, but back at the line I bet it at, I was all over Pantoja.
I hear you, my man. And that's the other thing is markets are everything, right? At early numbers, maybe you say, hey, I'm tempted. I want to get in on this guy. Maybe if the market comes back in, it changes the way you look at it. But it's a market at the end of the day. And I'm looking at one guy I'm seeing go up and up in price, and I'm like, man, he's got some intangible assets here. And what does Alex Perez look like today? I don't know. It's a little bit of an open question. He could have made significant improvements at his age and his distance from the game. I don't think he's going to change his style and come out here, looking like a spinning kickboxer or something. But I think that can he have made improvements, especially in that defensive grappling, which has been his number one kryptonite. I'm sure with those replays of Deiveson Figueiredo playing on UFC all the time, it's going to be all the motivation he needs to get in that room and do the grappling. Patrick, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, shout out to Gordo for getting a good number on it. I got a little bit worse of a number on the Pantoja money line, but it is my biggest money line of the week. Minus 174 is where I got it at. I think Perez has all of the tools to, be a very good contender, as we've seen. I think there's a little bit more of a fluidity to the way that, Pantoja can mix those skills together. And I think he's got Perez beat almost everywhere. And when you couple that with very good takedown defense that's proven against like Askarov, against Manel Kape on his debut as well, very, very high-level wins for Pantoja, and I really think he's a force to be reckoned with here. I like him a lot in this. And then if you couple that with, I'm so skeptical of all of the outside-of-the-cage issues for Perez. This guy, if you look at him, he's missed weight 3 or 4 times outside of the UFC, before even coming to the UFC, where he's had numerous weight issues in this organization.
He's a big boy.
Yeah, and one time he missed weight pre-UFC at Bantamweight as well. So this guy's always struggled with it, and there's been times where it's not even recorded as him missing weight, right? Like some of the Schnell fights, he was hospitalized, and Schnell also missed weight, things like that. So I'm skeptical, like you, Liam, if this even makes it to the card on Saturday, and I hope it does. But the long layoff, the weight cut issues, and I just think Pantoja's the better guy. Even if we see a pre-2020 form of Perez, I still got Pantoja.
Hear you. Lou, what do you think?
Yeah, so I have a problem with this fight. I agree. It's weird that I agree with what all three of you have said, even though Liam is on a different side than Patrick and Gordo. I feel like the one differentiator for me would be Pantoja's durability. Guy doesn't get finished. Perez has been finished. But there's something on at the back of my fucking head that says don't bet Pantoja. And this is gambler's instinct. Like, I just don't want to get involved in this fight. I looked at time props. I looked at the sub prop for Pantoja, which it's down. Like BetMGM has it at plus 300, which like you can't make that play anymore. Like for that prop, I think objectively the side is Pantoja. Ironically enough, if you delve into the stats, the fight metrics say Perez. I know he's fought the strength of schedule is lesser, but there's something telling me not to get involved in this one at all. Like, I think either and I think it's going to happen. Can I bet that the fight will happen? Because that would be awesome. I would love to make that bet. I think Perez is going to make weight. I think he's going to be all right.
Hit up Dave Mason online. He'll make odds for anything if there's enough interest.
I'm very nervy about laying money on the Pantoja side, especially as it approaches 2-1. So I'm just going to lay off it completely. The pick for the show is Pantoja, but no confidence, like small confidence here.
Yeah, and truly, a couple sharp guys I know early got in on the Pantoja side, told me that they were going to be all over Pantoja sub. And just when I started looking into Alex Perez, man, I don't want to sleep on this guy. I remember betting against him with Deiveson, feeling very confident that Deiveson was the side and being very impressed by the performance I got from Perez in a very short window. So I think that he kind of fumbled the bag there. But that's the kind of thing as a competitor that will stew with you, that will make you think, that will make you, kind of recommit, I think. So that's what I'm excited to see as a potential outcome here. I think that Perez could be an interesting contender for anybody that ends up holding the strap. Anybody that emerges from that interim title fight, for example. But I also think, Pantoja, who could take anything away from the guy, absolute legend of the flyweight division. And he's got a couple wins over Moreno as well. So would not be a problem to see those guys run it back.
Man, I miss Yves Levine, who's the referee in the bout you're talking about with Perez and Joseph Benavidez. I miss Yves Levine. He made a lot of fights that wouldn't have been that exciting, extremely tense and exciting. You don't know who's going to die in the octagon when Yves Levine is running the scene in the UFC. All right.
Yeah, you never know who he's going to let be a warrior and just get absolutely stretched across the octagon.
Remember at, what was that, UFC 102 with Chris Lieben almost dying because he wouldn't stop the fight? Oh, man.
Dude, Yves Levine, I'm sure he's a nice guy, but wrong idea about MMA stoppages. They had to stop that and just be like, hey, just move on, okay, buddy? But with that being said, guys, Yves Levine would be a perfect referee for our next one because it's going to need a stoppage here. In all likelihood, we got the Black Beast, Derrick Lewis, He's taking on Sergey Pavlovich. And, this was the first money line bet that I placed on the card, and it was a while back. I took Sergey Pavlovich at plus 116. And, listen, I'm at a point now where I could just take free money on this fight, and I may end up doing that because it's a heavyweight fight. It's pretty volatile. I could get plus 120 on the comeback on Derrick Lewis. And, then I'm sitting there like a bookmaker. I got plus 120 on either side. Basically, I'm laughing. But I also think that there are some reasons to like Pavlovich as an underdog, whereas there might not be some reasons to love him as a favorite. And the simple fact is like betting into certain anthropomorphic advantages, especially at heavyweight, is profitable long-term, right? So it's like if you can every time get plus money on somebody who's 7 years younger and has a massive reach advantage in the heavyweight division, both guys got big power, it's kind of a no-brainer, right? That being said, when you're being asked to lay a minus 130, a minus 140, a minus 150, it's a much different story. Right now, we're saying 60% of the time Pavlovich is able to boink him in the first round. It's like, I'm a lot less comfortable betting into that. So for me, this was a early prices are everything. If you got in early on Pavlovich, hey, great job. Now, if you're laying the chalk on Pavlovich, you might be kicking yourself after the fact saying, did I really lay chalk against Derrick Lewis and knock him out in the first round? Because that's a Derrick Lewis fight, right? I think Dawkins, it kind of worked the same way. If you got in early on Dawkins, you might have felt like a bookmaker. I'm sitting there with a plus 130, whatever it is. Now he's the favorite. But Dawkins got knocked out in the first round. That's always possible in a Derrick Lewis fight. I just think that Derrick can't take a shot anymore. I think that he doesn't want to. I don't think that he's a guy who's invested in his UFC legacy. I don't think he gives a shit. Straight up. I don't think that Derrick Lewis cares about winning these fights. If he wins, awesome. If he loses, no problem. The guy gets paid great amounts of money. Now he's in Texas. He's like 3-3 in Texas. I keep hearing about it's like that hasn't inspired like his best performances. I think he's lost his last two in Texas. So it's very possible he comes back here, gets a big knockout win, but I don't think there's any reason to bank on it either. He's dropped the ball in Texas before. He's dropped the ball in big fights before. He's dropped the ball to UFC contenders. And I think that Sergey Pavlovich is like the best Russian prospect at heavyweight right now. So when the UFC has been matchmaking him, they've match-made him pretty effectively. They gave him a bunch of guys that he could beat after giving him Alistair Overeem in a UFC debut. Because what? They thought he was a bum? No, they thought he was going to knock out Alistair Overeem. And then they were like, okay, too much too soon. Get him some seasoning. Get him some UFC fights. Now they're trying to give him another step up in competition. They're giving him a guy who's coming off a knockout loss. They're giving him a guy who's been knocked out many times in the UFC from his early fights to his more recent bouts. And I think that the ultimate deciding factor is Pavlovich. I know it's a small sample size, but the guy's got almost a 6% knockdown rate at heavyweight. In a fight where both guys are likely to come out there and need a shot to land to exchange, to get their win condition, Derrick Lewis has the shorter reach. He's got to get closer to do it. And Pavlovich, by the numbers, hits harder than Derrick Lewis. So I know that Derrick Lewis has massive power, but based on the distance strike that he's landing, Pavlovich knocks more people down per shot landed, and he's hurting guys really badly. So he's fought a bunch of, cans. Now he's going to take a real step up, but I don't know that Derrick can take it too. So I think when you've got the recoverability of a 30-year-old versus a 37-year-old that's been finished a lot, I got to take the 30-year-old if it's plus money, but at this stage, I'll let the rest of the market decide. Lou, what do you think?
I would like to defer my turn to Patrick because he broke this down so perfectly on his channel, and you brought up his record in Texas, but Patrick has another amazing stat about Derrick Lewis here.
That's true. That's true.
I'd like to just defer my turn to him.
Look, man, I've never been a big Derrick Lewis fan. I mean, when he burst in the scene, sure, but I've got this OCD with the rankings where I like the better mixed martial artists to be towards the top of the top 10, top 5. Somehow Derrick Lewis always beats those guys that are better than him and costs me money, man. I lost my biggest bet ever against, him against Curtis Blades about, a year and a half ago now. So that just made matters worse. He is like the Ric Flair of the UFC. He gets tired at later rounds, spits out the mouthpiece, goes for low blows, eye pokes, anything to get a break. Not a big fan of the guy, but he has knockout power legitimately. And, there is one statistic here that Lewis alluded to where I think there's even a countdown here coming towards Saturday night. It's incoming. I'm hearing voices. I'm seeing messages in the cat litter. I'm seeing 3 Russians that he's undefeated against, which are Shamil Abdurakhimov, knocked out in round 4. I'm seeing Volkov in round 3. I'm seeing Alexei Oleinik, he knocked out in round 2. And I think Saturday he will knock out Sergey Pavlovich in round 1. The stats are undeniable. The Black Beast comes through again. But I got to say, Liam, amazing. Scalp the bookies and take that. Just take the headshot. Take that plus money. And just don't sweat this fight. Come on now. You beat the line. You beat the line movement. Take the plus money. But I'm taking Black Beast round 1. The way I would see this playing out legitimately, though, all that aside, is I think Sergey does land something with that huge reach. He lands something flush. And when he does that, he tends to rush in with, wild combinations to end the fight. I think at that point, Derrick Lewis will counter him with something as he rushes in. Gets that classic Lewis knockout that he doesn't really deserve, but we know and love him for.
I can definitely see it. And I got to say, I'm not much of a drinker, but I had to do my first ever shoey live on the air when Shoey Vasa shipped me a big bag, 5 units at plus 170. So they gave me plus money again. It would be almost, disrespectful for me not to at least take those winnings and turn them over here on another potential fade angle. And I think that that under is a very live shout because both these guys swing big, both these guys land heavies, and both these guys have been knocked out. So I think that that's a great shout. Gordo, what do you think, my man?
Yeah, if you guys have been following me for a while, I got one rule in MMA betting, and it's just don't bet against Derrick Lewis. No matter how much I've lost money, I watched all of my roommates tail Liam on Tuivasa and bet him against Derrick Lewis, and I just sat on the sidelines and I watched because that's my number one rule in betting. I actually bet Derrick Lewis against Curtis Blades somehow. I don't know. Point being, he's a guy I can't go against. There's maybe 2 options. I either bet him to get the KO or I sit and watch. Now, this is a fight where I see going under. I see being pretty high scoring on DraftKings because it's pretty simple. If Derrick Lewis isn't going to get you out in that first 5 minutes, he doesn't want to be there. He doesn't have that same will to want to win anymore. He doesn't want to be a champion anymore. He doesn't want to fight in 5 rounds. He wants to knock you out early or go home. The under's a great look here, but due to that variance, due to what Patrick is saying, due to the ability that it's Derrick Lewis and that everything that happens with him is possible because of that knockout power, I'm probably going to take a stab on him just because he has everything you may need in a heavyweight fight, and that is just knockout power. Is Pavlovich going to go out there and wrestle him or stay at range and eliminate everything he may have? I don't think so. Pavlovich is there to be hit. I don't rate him as highly as others may, especially all the people who are betting him down. So plus 165 currently for the KO line, tempting for me. However, there's 2 options because I'm not betting against Derrick Lewis. But with that, I'm gonna keep it simple with that. Target them on DraftKings, and let's see how it goes come fight time.
Yeah, man, I like where your head's at. I think that it's an obvious fade spot for some people on DraftKings, but for me, it's you got 2 guys that could easily end the fight in the first round. They could easily get that early finish bonus. I wouldn't be surprised by any outcome here that involves violence, and I think it's going to take place early and often. So for me, car crash type of fight, look for the plus money angle. Now you got to set up for Derrick Lewis if that's what you want, but I think Pavlovich might arrive in the heavyweight division on Saturday night. So I'm excited to see if he's able to do so. But we've got a rematch at 125 pounds that we need to break down. In the co-main event, Brandon Moreno is taking on Kai Ronson. I think this is a fantastic fight. Both these guys have made significant improvements as far as I'm concerned from one fight to the other. I think in almost different areas of the fight. But I also think that we've seen Moreno show a little bit of the same problems in terms of his defensive hand positioning. I'm not sure how responsible he is. I think that it's pretty clear. Sometimes he gets caught watching his work. He'll land a big combination and he'll smile and, do a little stutter step and a shake or whatever, and he'll get caught on the return. And it happened to him against Figueiredo. And eventually, that starts to wear on you. It starts to, chip away at your durability. And I think that we saw the first signs of that in his last fight. And we've got to be wary of that against a guy like Kai France. He's got a 1.8% knockdown rate. It's quite high for the division. It's almost double Brandon Moreno's knockdown rate. So I think that that's something to be a little concerned about. Moreno has been knocked down. Kai France has been knocked down. But you look at the Kai France, when he was knocked down, it was basically because he was caught out of position. He went to swing on Brandon Royval after rocking him, and Royval hit one knee and threw a spinning back elbow. It's most guys aren't going to have that reaction Kai Kara-France never saw it coming. He got badly rocked, and then he got finished instantly with that, submission series, the guillotine. It was nasty, right? I don't know that we're going to see the same kind of submission offense from Brandon Moreno here. I don't think that that's how he tries to fight most of the time. He mixes in some counter wrestling. He can get on top of people. I think it'd be wise for him to try and do that a little bit against Kai Kara-France, take him out of his comfort zone, try and force him into those areas. But I thought that the defensive submission responsibility against Askar Askarov was really impressive. I saw that fight in person. I think that the crowd kind of swayed that decision a little bit. But then I have to ask myself, what if the crowd sways the decision again here? And I know everybody instinctually is going to think Moreno is going to be the house fighter here, but Kai Kara-France is a weirdly popular UFC fighter, man. I think a lot of people really like him. Think that the big knockouts in some recent bouts, Cody Garbrandt has been, a part of that. So for me, I just have a little bit of trepidation here. Brandon Moreno bit me last time out. I thought he was going to win against Davison Figueiredo. I was willing to lay the chalk there, and it cost me, right? Now you're being asked to lay the similar chalk price, and the fact is, if you bet at a minus number Brandon Moreno in the UFC, you've lost money or you've made like $2. It's like the guy has not been making you a return on your investment, plain and simple. Kai Kara-France, on the other hand, as an underdog, has been returning you an investment. He's been doing the job for you. So I think that for that reason, from a market standpoint, I'd be looking more at a dog or pass situation here. I think Moreno's a good fighter. I think he's very capable of winning this fight. But I think with the cracks in the durability as a potential sign of weakness, the fact that he's had to go how many rounds now with one of the bigger punchers in the division, taking a lot of clean shots. I mean, people forget that fight that was a draw. He took an absolute hellacious beating in that fight as well. So all those things for me are reasons why I would not love investing in Moreno at the huge chalk price here. Do I favor him to win? Yes. If you gave it to me at Pick'em, I would be interested, but I think at the current prices, it's a dog or pass situation for me. I said that a lot on this card, but I don't feel like there's a lot of reliable, bankable favorites that I feel like running to the window with. So for me, it's probably going to be a more dog-heavy slate. Lou, what do you think?
Just exactly what you said all over again. I like what I've seen from Kai Kara-France. I don't honestly see a full path for him here. I think that the longer this fight goes, I favor the cardio, like the tough guy nature of Moreno. We haven't seen Kai Kara-France really pushed and tested. But I just don't know. Can Kai Kara-France really hurt him? Can he like how does he win a decision here? Because I don't think he wins by a finish. So how does he win a decision? Is he winning rounds just battering him for 25 minutes? I don't think so. I think Moreno, and let's talk about Moreno's camp change, which I think is super important for this. That he's at Glory now. I think there's going to be a ground heavy game plan. I think it is going to rely on the submission grappling here. And if that's the case, over 5 rounds, I think eventually the takedowns get going. He does start wearing Kai Kara-France out. But I'm with you. I can't get there at this price tag, man. It's too much. And I would, to me, it's favorite or pass, but I can't at this price. So maybe some money will come in that lowers it down. But for me, it's a total pass. I think fight goes the distance is a good look. I don't think Moreno really gets a finish here, but that's where I'm aiming at this one right now. Fight like time props but not a side unless the Moreno number comes down.
I hear that for sure. And I just think that, when you look at Kai Kara-France, man, he's got a lot of MMA experience. He's had a lot of fights, a lot of guys that were, UFC level guys. He fought them outside the organization. And he's also grown up a little bit in the UFC now, where I think that his performances look a lot more mature and a lot more smart. He's been a lot more defensively responsible. Even in fights where he gave up bad positions, he was able to work his way back out and find finishes against Banter, and then work his way back out and find a way to a decision victory. It's a greasy one, but beating Askar Askarov is no easy feat. I think that win is going to age tremendously well for him as well. Patrick, what do you think about this fight?
I feel like I'm somewhere between you and Lou on this one. I'm probably more dog or pass as far as where I think the value is on this line. I'm passing on this. I've got no bet on this fight, but I am oddly confident, just as a hunch, that Moreno wins this fight because, like Lou said, I can see a world where Moreno wins. I can see him winning a 5-round decision here. I think he's more of a headhunter as far as his boxing goes. But what I like from him as far as how he wins the fight is he's never backed up or rarely backed up. He holds center very well. And it's either you counter strike in your back foot the way I think Kai Kara-France will have to, or you try to engage him and back him up, and you're just going to be trading in the phone booth at striking range. And, Kai Kara-France, I'll give him this. He's the more diverse striker. He goes to the head, the body, the legs very equally. If you look at his metrics and just watching his fights, more creative, more unpredictable, and maybe a little bit more power. I don't know. But I like the boxing at close range for Moreno. And I like the fact that he looks the same as far as his energy levels, his power in round 1 as he does in round 3, in round 5. His power lasts. His cardio is undeniable. But what's also undeniable is the momentum that Kai Kara-France is in, which makes me really hesitant to pull the trigger on Brandon Moreno here. Moreno's a guy that I'm confident of where I would probably parlay him or something like that, but I'm staying off of the dangerous parlays. I'm looking for moneyline value this week to get back on track, and I can't find it here. I think it is dog or pass, but I'm very confident Moreno gets the interim belt here, and we see a 4th fight between Figgy.
Well, you're agreeing with the library. He says take Moreno -200 if you still have it. Gordo, agree or disagree?
Well, first of all, completely unrelated to the breakdown, did you think that Kai Kara-France beat Askarov while you were live there with me in person?
No. I did not. I was brutalized.
Yeah, I was right there with you. But you know what? The crowd had a big part in that one. And I do think that watching it back on tape, maybe I was right. It was a close fight. You can't be really mad either way because he did what he had to do. He had the bigger moments, and he did well. With that being said, I don't think he's going to have the ability to have the bigger moments here against a guy on Brandon Moreno. I am on the Brandon Moreno side. Not enough confident to play it fully as a bet yet, but I got some ways to target it. I think that Brandon Moreno is going to be the better fighter down the stretch. I think he's going to be the better I think he's going to be durable enough to withstand the power of Kai Kara-France and go out there and really outstrike him, outvolume him, outgrapple him. And I just think he's just a better mixed martial artist. Kai Kara-France is this hype train. He has the power. He's an entertaining flyweight, but I don't think he has that same, let's say, skill level. He doesn't have that same ability to go for takedowns. And I think that at the end of the day, Brandon Moreno is going to have the more well-rounded game, the ability to go take that back, look for a submission later on, as well as the cardio, durability, and ability to keep up with him. I think that the difference in the grappling is monumental compared to the difference in the striking. I think it's going to be really competitive striking-wise, but the added ability to go out there and get takedowns, go out there and stay on the feet with him for a longer period of time, the ability to go out there and have that cardio leads me onto his side. I'm not playing Moreno straight. Instead, I'm looking more towards the Moreno 4-5 decision line, which is at plus money right now. I think that's most likely his path to victory. And although it is getting a bit too cute, and maybe I shouldn't be this fancy, I do think when you're getting Brandon Moreno at his major win equity at plus money, it's something I'm liking to look at this week.
Yeah, last time out, I actually found a way to place the worst bets that you could possibly muster. I had Askarov by sub, and he spends however many minutes on the back and can't get the sub. And then I had KKF ITD at like plus 750, crushed the closing number, and he wins a decision. So that was the kind of night that it was in Columbus, Ohio, as my man Gordo knows. But hopefully we see better results this weekend. No bets on the co-main event for me. I was leaning more dog or pass, but these sharp opinions I respect on the other side are going to make me revisit my work here, make sure that I've done all my due diligence. Brandon Moreno, maybe it's just that recency bias because he bit me so bad last time. I was confident he was going to win. I thought we had seen such improvements from one fight to the next, and then I thought we saw a little bit of a regression. So don't want to get too ahead of myself there, letting my bitter taste in my mouth, lead me astray. But guys, we've made it. We're here. It's finally time. The main event of the evening, UFC 277. Go ahead, like this video if you haven't already. Get subscribed to the channel. Lots of great content coming your way. We break down these fights each and every week. And I just did a great interview with my man Blake Perry. He's fighting this weekend on Uriah Faber's A1 Combat. So don't miss it. Go check that out as well if you haven't. And appreciate you guys for the support. Thank you in advance. Julianna Pena. She's defending the title. She's a big underdog. She's taking on Amanda Nunes. I won't hog the mic here. I'm going to hand it right off to my man, Lou. What do you think about the main event of the evening? Big rematch for the women's 135-pound title.
All right, I'll let the three of you break it down the proper way that it needs to be broken down for the channel. I'm gonna go a little off kilter with this. Is that you guys are I know you guys are NFL fans, and how many times have we seen a running back who's like dominant? He's dominant, and he has 2 bad weeks off, and he falls off the cliff for his career. He's done. The equivalent of that when we look at these fighters is, you start saying the retirement word. you bring it up. The hunger's not there. And this is not the kind of sport to get involved with, like when you're starting to thinking about retiring. So I don't know what kind of Nunes we're getting. Like, could she could hold the 145-pound belt for the next 30 years because there's no competitors. Is she hungry? She kind of seems like deranged, if I'm being honest. Like, she doesn't seem like this loss has bothered her like soul. But I just can't get past how bad she looked last fight and the quick tap. Like, I can't get past it. So do I think Pena is like some going to be champion for years? No, but it might be just a situation where she retains because Nunes doesn't want it as bad. And look, there's metrics out there that talk about rematch stats, like the person that wins the original match, 67% rematches, title matches where it's the next match. I think it's 11-2. I mean, it's all the metrics. It's metrics versus eye test here. And I'm just going to go against the eye test. I'm going to take Pena and Still. And, Pena's sub is like what do I have it down here? It's plus 650. I mean, we have tape that she's done it before. So 5-round fight. If the cardio holds up, that sub's very live. I don't see a knockout here. Sub or decision. So give me Pena at retain and give me a poke on the submission prop again, man.
I like where your head is at, Patrick. What do you think?
Yeah, this is a tough one for sure. And I'm excited for the rematch because I thought maybe we wouldn't see it, right? Maybe Amanda Nunes just retreated to 145 and just stayed there and held that, I'm glad we get to see this played back. It was one of the strangest and most embarrassing performances for a dominant champion ever. And now I'm seeing on Twitter, all these people are bringing up old memories of, champions not getting their belt back in the rematch. And it makes me a little bit scared. I do think in my heart and my hunch that I think Nunes does get her belt back here. I think she's better everywhere than Pena in this fight, if we see, before last year in December. I think before that, she would have beat her everywhere. But I can't bet on this fight. Like Lou said, I can't get that out of my mind, her tapping in round 2. One thing I do think, and Lou actually, just our discussion last week before the props dropped, he got me on the over 2.5, and I agree with that. I think at plus money, over 2.5, I do think Nunes' biggest fear would be gassing out again in round 2. So she has maybe more measured in round 1, grapples defensively in round 1, sticks to the outside and just outpoints her. I think she does have the better stand-up either way in round 1. Burn some time off the clock, get to round 2. Maybe there's the Pena durability we saw, and we get to at least halfway through this fight. Then it's anything goes. All bets are off. I don't know what happens in this fight. I don't want to pick a side. You're either getting a discount on the greatest of all time in Nunes, you're getting a discount on a big underdog price in a match you've seen play out before, So I don't want to be on a side here. I like the over 2.5, and I have made a bet on that.
I like that as well as a potential look, especially I believe that's been corrected. I'm going to double check that now. I don't want to speak over turn.
I'm at over 2.5 plus 100.
Yep, that's the best available, and the market average is even going worse, minus 105. So definitely seeing some movement that way. So great job getting in on the early number. Gordo, what do you got here? Main event. You got anything for us?
I truly think there are too many narratives to come out here and really put a stamp on it. I think that if we look skill for skill, you have to lean towards Amanda Nunes, but what you can't teach is heart. And I think Pena has way more heart in the game right now. I think she is going to be the hungrier fighter. I think she's going to be the one that wants it more. What does Nunes have left to prove? All right. If she was out here trying to win her first belt, she has all the skills to dominate, in my opinion. With that being said, that's not who she is. She said the retirement word at the press conference today. She's out there not being her true self. And I think that despite everyone saying, oh, she looks in good shape, I don't know if I can go out there and trust her, especially at this price tag. You have someone who has a blueprint, someone who has won before, someone who has literally the belt in her hands as such a big underdog, and it looks really appealing. With that being said, I don't think I can get there. I truly think that Nunes is the better fighter, but when? How? Today? I don't know. The Nunes that I know was not there last time out. You know who did show up, though? That was Julianna Pena. And Julianna Pena is there to win. She's there to take over. And it's a spot where I can't do it. I can't place any money on either side because if I bet on Julianna Pena and old Nunes shows up and wins, I do think she has the skills to go out there and make us look stupid because she is the more talented fighter. That being said, if I put any money on Amanda Nunes and she looks anything close to what she did last time, I'm the idiot. because she's not who she used to be. So pass fight for me. I think it's a high volatility spot. I've seen a couple people say that Amanda Nunes is going to take it Felicia Spencer style and go around the outside and play it safe. No, Amanda Nunes isn't the same anymore. She's going to go for that finish. I think that is going to high variant spot, a lot of narratives, decent fight to target on DraftKings. However, money wise, I'm just going to sit back and enjoy. All right. I know Liam's just is over there ready to pounce on something, ready to unleash his PowerPoint presentation on who he's going to bet. And I think I know who it is. With that being said, I'm ready to hear it. Maybe he convinced me to take a side, but currently right now, I'm a free agent. Nothing bet on this one so far.
Yeah, so I'm not going to come to you guys and tell you I've already got, a big play locked in. I was kind of waiting to see how the market would shake out here. But it does seem like the market is coming around, to my opinion, unfortunately, which is what I was preferring would not happen. I was hoping that we'd see a little bit more love come in the Amanda Nunes way, bump that line out to the 3XX range. I believe she opened a -300 favorite here. And truth be told, guys, right after the fight, the first fight I'm talking about, I kind of had a feeling who I was going to bet in this fight. I saw in round number 1, I was watching the fight at a bar. I thought it was so funny. I was sitting there with a few friends, my girl, and we're watching the fight. I had plus 450 on Nunes by sub. She's on top of her. I'm like, man, we're about to get this Darce choke. We're about to lock it up and move on. And I see her look up into the crowd, and she starts smiling, and she's like beaming, looking around. And I was like, oh, my God, she's taking it all in. I was like, this fight's over. And I knew what was about to happen. I was disgusted with myself. I knew I might as well just rip out the ticket right then because she's already focused on something else. She's not even in the fight. In the fight, she's out, doing her grocery list like Dana White used to say about Steve Mazzagatti, right? It's like she was anywhere else in the world but in the fight. And you know what Julianna Pena was? Just in the fight. She wasn't better than her at fighting. She wanted to be there more. And I think that's something we see all the time with champions. They don't want to be the champion anymore. It stinks. It's hard. It's hard to be the champion. It's not a fun lifestyle. Everybody wants to beat you up. Everybody you see wants to be your enemy. It's like, it's not easy. And she's a mother. She's got a kid. She's doing other things. And I think that we saw that in the performance. I think we saw that in how she conducted herself. And I think that we're kind of seeing that again in the lead up to this fight. Where she looks like she's focused on other things. She's building a gym. She's doing, some side project and thinking about retirement, focused on her wife's comeback fight that didn't come to pass. It's like she's had all these other, things to think about. And then I look at who she's training with. She's training with Alex Chambers. She's training with her wife. She's like nobody that I'm like, oh, she's training with Garrett Armfield, right? So it's like she's training with, not the highest level pros. She's bringing people into her gym. I don't know that I could trust that in a championship setting. And you're asking me to trust it at a 70% clip. You're asking me to trust the girl who gave up before the choke was locked in at a 70% clip. I'll never do that. I can't do that. So maybe Amanda wins this fight and we get a trilogy out of it. I'll bet Julianna Pena again the third time. That's the truth. Because I think that Julianna Pena, more often than not, with her pace, with her pressure, with her aggression, is going to cause problems for Amanda Nunes, who likes a comfortable fight where she can control everything from the outside. In the GDR fight, she didn't like how she was not able to control it on the feet, so she took it to the ground. In the last fight, I think she showed she might not have the cardio to do that, especially with somebody like Julianna, who you could say a lot of things about her, technically and otherwise, but number one, she's training with Valley Flow Striking. We saw massive improvements from what she used to put out to what she was putting out in that last fight. I'm not saying it was good. I'm saying it went from 0 to, a 4. It's like she put out much better striking in her last fight. Potentially we see small improvements there again in this fight. And then in the grappling, Amanda just gave it up. But let's say Julianna is able to get on top. Amanda does better with the submission defense. What's to stop Julianna Pena from being better conditioned, posturing up, and starting to unload with ground and pound like she's done to several opponents in the past? What about butchering somebody in the clinch like she's done to Valentina Shevchenko before she got submitted there? She was having success getting on top, bullying her in the clinch. I just think y'all must have forgot a little bit. I did. I thought Julianna Pena, I was like, man, Amanda's going to be the much better grappler. It didn't matter. Amanda was the better grappler. What happened? She got submitted because she was more willing to give up than Julianna. That's the truth. Julianna's much more of a dog, much more competitive, much more scrappy. Amanda Nunes, what's been her fatal flaw in the past? That she quit in fights where it was going okay, and then it started to go the other way, and then she found a way out. She barely edged Valentina. That's why everybody wanted to see the rematch. Valentina stormed back on her in round 3, nearly had her out of there. That's the problem with Amanda Nunes. When she can't keep the fight on her script, it falls apart big time. And I think that that's something that could happen in this fight. I think that Julianna Pena causes problems for her with her mentality, with her aggression, with the fact that she wants to make it a brawl. I think that that's something that could get her caught here. She could pay the ultimate price, but this is women's MMA, okay? I don't know that Amanda Nunes is going to knock her out above a 50% clip, and I think Julianna's going to have the better cardio to go in rounds 3, 4, and 5. If it goes there, I would not be surprised if Amanda makes some mistakes early. You know, she's got a lot of pressure mounting on her in this fight. You know, it's basically all or nothing, you know, for whether she's going to move forward and probably do this for a career or not. If you don't think that's a lot of pressure on somebody's shoulders, I think Gustafsson was a prime example. You know, I thought maybe with 2 years of refreshment, maybe with it, but no, it's like when somebody's time has come and gone, it's gone and it's never coming back. And I think that that unfortunately might be the case with Amanda Nunes here. When she looked up in the crowd, that might be the end of it forever. And I wouldn't be surprised if it is. So Julianna Pena had a big plus number. It's going to be hard for me to say no, boys. Going to have to look at a dog or pass situation. And I'm surprised at the betting odds. I don't think that they'll close at this range. I think it's a heck of a matchup, but I don't like Amanda Nunes' chances here against Julianna Pena. So give me Julianna Pena, ITD, and maybe even a sprinkle on the KO, because I think a lot of people are going to play the subline. I think a lot of people are going to be expecting the same result. And I think that Amanda Nunes does have good Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. She just quit the last fight. And so what's to stop her from quitting with one of these as opposed to one of these, you know, give the neck. So I'm just saying, I think that that's a potential outcome here as well. And that's what I'm going to be looking forward to potentially on Saturday night. Yes.
What I related to the most out of the beginning of that was why is it always, especially when we do this on YouTube and we do this, you know, kind of as a part-time job gambling, how come you reach your lowest moments when you're with your girlfriend or with your boys at the bar and it's like, oh, who do you have this fight? Oh, I got Amanda Nunes by sub, you know, plus 450, easy money. And then they just see her tap out, you know, it's like, that always happens to me too. It's like, I'm explaining to my friend why I think this guy's going to win and he gets chinned immediately. I'm like, what? They'll look at me like, why do you even do this? Who listens to you?
Oh, my man, I'll tell you what. I've had Gavin Tucker go down on the first punch. So after that, my like will and spirit was already broken forever. It's like, what are you going to do that's going to hurt my feelings? I've had every bet collapse that you can imagine. I had Chris Weidman the night he swung a kick and broke his leg on the first exchange. Anything you can imagine, I've done it. I've been there. That's
I won
the name of
that.
the
I
game
won that
we play.
big. I had Uriah Hall huge that night. That was awesome. Sorry, Liam.
Easy
There
win.
you go. And that's actually the name of the game, though. When one of us stumbles and falls on one of these unfortunate breaks, it is one of our other brothers getting saved and getting blessed. So can't complain about that. Last week wasn't my week. Hoping to bounce back with a strong week this week. And hopefully by next week, we have no more sex bots in the chat, because that's been a little frustrating. But guys, it's 2:39 in the morning. It's time to cut you all loose. It's time to cut these great gentlemen that I've had rocking with me for a 2-hour plus stream already. So it was an absolute pleasure to meet my man Patrick. Lou and Gordo every week are holding it down here with us. So appreciate each and every one of you guys. Want to give you a chance to let the people know where they can find you, all the great work that you're doing. My man Lou, if you don't mind getting us started, the MMA engine himself, rocking with us live till 2:39 a.m. Lou, thank you, brother.
I got this new project I'm working on. I bought a domain called nakedsax.xyz. I can't really tell you much about it right now, but it involves YouTube. But
You just send it over and over in the chat, dude. That's good marketing.
But like, check us out, because I mean, like, I don't know what our product is, but we're getting attention. So yeah, check us out. MMA Engine tomorrow at 5:30 with my guy Monk. We do the happy hour. Monday nights at 7. We're not competitors. There's enough room in the space before Liam and Narco go on and like super break down everything. Brady and I give you the 20-minute quick and dirty version of Dana White Contender Series breakdown. We're just counting the days to Bo Nickel. That's all we give a shit about right now, to be honest. And MMA Engine, Lou Betcha on Twitter. Don't worry about me. Thank you guys for hanging out all night. Like, you guys in the chat are fucking warriors that you like on no notice. You're like, Liam's going live. We're in, dude. You guys know. So you guys are just as much a part of this as me or anybody else. So thank you guys.
Sharpest chat in the game. Say it every week, and each and every week they come with the heat, and they prove it once again. Patrick, my man, appreciate you being here, brother. It was an absolute pleasure to meet you. Seemed like you got a great head on your shoulders for these fights, so I'm excited to see how they shake out, man, and excited to talk to you again in the future. Let the people know where they can find you.
Yeah, what's up, guys? My name is Patrick. I run a YouTube channel called Addicted to Combat. I started it this year, so a little bit newer to the game, trying to hang with these titans of the industry like Liam and like Lou Betcha and my guy Gordo. These guys are all smart people, so I'm just glad to hang. But go to Addicted to Combat on YouTube. Give me a follow there. Subscribe. Keep the channel growing. I've got a great community of people there so far. They've been so nice. So I'm new to YouTube, but I've been watching mixed martial arts literally my entire life, and I don't know the rules to any other sport except for this one. So this is my full priority at all times. And I'm starting live stream starting this Wednesday. I'll be having the Eric Betts fights on Wednesday at 9:30 Central Time. Lou Betcha will be on the following week. And then I got to get these guys like Liam and Gordo in there as well. So I'll be rotating guests. I do full card breakdowns as well. Come give me a subscribe. Let's hang out and talk fights.
Absolutely, brother. I will be 100% happy to join you in the near future. So get in touch with me, and we will certainly make that happen. Last time that I'm blocking nakedsex.xyz, I'm all good with the marketing, boys, but just cool it a little bit. Gordo, my man's getting rich over here with the XYZ streams.
Yeah, no. Don't blame that on me. That's all Lou. But no, I truly do appreciate you for having me on once again. I missed the last couple being in an airport, being asleep, but I couldn't miss it this one. This was a really good card. Happy to hear all your insight on it, and I'm looking forward to hopefully making some money with you guys. As always, I got my DFS breakdown, which I should have been editing tonight, but we're here instead. That'll be up as soon as it can be tomorrow on the Plays and Fades YouTube channel. Please check that out, because that's also where me, Liam, and Narco Cop are going to be doing our Dana White Contender Series breakdowns every Monday night, 10 p.m., rotating on each one of our channels. Other than that, I do the Pup Sport Radio breakdown with Brady, Monk, and Uncle Wheezy every Wednesday at 7 p.m. EST. And last but not least, I do a best bets video on current MMA. So lots of content. Make sure if you want to know anything more about that, check me out on Twitter at GamblesGordo. DM me anytime if you guys want to talk fights. And I appreciate you guys for giving me the platform, the time to talk, and allowing me to complain about how tired I am, because I'm going to be crashing right away. So enjoy the rest of your night, guys. And thank you once again, Liam.
Absolutely, brother. It's my pleasure. Guys, each and every week, what you're going to get from this show is we're going to talk about our thoughts on the fight. We're going to break down all the action, and we're going to tell you how we feel. But at the end of the day, it's your money. Please guide it responsibly. Make whatever bets you feel comfortable with, and always do your own research, do your own homework. It'll put you in the best position to succeed. But as far as I'm concerned, I appreciate each and every one of you guys who value this as a tool in your handicapping process. Each and every week, we're going to bring you our effort, our intensity, our energy, and these three guys brought it in spades tonight. The chat was absolutely on fire. So thank you guys all so much. I'm fired up about this card. UFC 277 is going to be an absolute banger. God bless you all. Enjoy those fights. Come back next week. Going to have all the same fun again. Thanks, everybody.